Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me tonight. I know this live might come as a bit of a surprise. To be honest, it was kind of spontaneous. I wasn't really planning on going live tonight. Um, to those of you that have been paying attention and noticed, I have not made any content the last couple of days. That was for personal reasons. Um, it's okay now. I could just tell you guys, but I was kind of keeping a low profile this weekend. So Thursday, um, my daughter had a fever. My daughter's 13 months old, and she had a fever and a rash, and it turned out to be an abscess. We brought her to the emergency room. We got the fever down. They drained the abscess, and then the next day, when she woke up, we had noticed that the abscess had gotten a lot worse. So we ended up bringing her to a different hospital where we spent the remainder of the weekend. She's okay now. She got home tonight, but yeah, that's why I haven't been around. And on top of that, my dad also came to town. Um, for those of you that probably don't know, my dad had a pretty bad stroke a couple months ago, so he can't really be home alone. So, just between I've just been going back and forth, either being home with my dad or being in the hospital with my wife and daughter. Is just this whole week was a nightmare. So forgive me if I'm not my normal energetic self and going on rants. Like I just want tonight to be a chill night. Like I said, I haven't even gotten to talk to anybody since I did my long debate slash interview with Gary on Wednesday. I was planning on doing a members only Q&A after that, but it ended up going so long and my back was killing me from sitting in this chair that I'm like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. And then the stuff happened with my daughter, and it's like, here we are. Now it's Sunday night. So I figured it'd be a good opportunity, just make some content. I'm probably not even going to keep this stream up, to be honest. Maybe I'll move it into the members only when it's done. I'll probably just do that because, yeah, it's like I said, I just felt like going live. Going live is like therapy for me sometimes too. I just turn the camera on. If you notice, I got the lights a little darker than usual. Like I'm just chilling tonight. But thank you guys for joining me, and let's have some fun tonight. Um, we're gonna have a big week. Tomorrow officially starts the preliminary hearings for the Tyler Robinson trial. Um, Pretty much everybody's going to be covering that, myself included. I was trying to go. I had some people that I was going to be meeting up with that I wanted to go to the courthouse with, but for different conflicts in my schedule, with all the kids and my wife and everything, and especially now, even if I had it booked after what happened with my daughter, I would have canceled it anyway. But I do have a number of different people that are going to be on the scene that are going to be streaming with me throughout the week. So on Wednesday, I'm going to be having Brandy and Teresa on. They're going to be there. Lala should be joining me on Thursday night. She will also be there. And then sometime between now and Friday, I'm definitely going to be having Elizabeth Lane on as well, and she'll be there too. So hopefully, I'll be able to get some inside scoops. Um, I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be good. Me and Elizabeth were actually supposed to stream together on Thursday. And then because of the stuff that happened with my daughter, I canceled. And then, we were just going to do it Friday. Then I had to go back to the hospital. I talked to her a little bit today. We haven't solidified a date, but I actually am probably going to be doing a couple of streams with her because we have three different topics that we want to cover together. One is something that goes back in history a little bit. Um, Another is kind of connects to that and what we're seeing happening now with the media and just this information war and Psy Ops, which we're going to cover a little bit tonight. And then also, which will probably come first, will be the Tyler Robinson trial. So, how is everybody doing? It's funny. I noticed in the chat when I was setting up, somebody bringing up Julian Dory. We're actually going to be covering that video today, if it's the same one that one of you guys were talking about. We're gonna talk about some Epstein stuff with Julian Dory. That should be fun. I don't think I've ever covered him before. He's been brought up a lot to me, and we're also gonna cover a little bit of Chase Hughes, who actually might be able to get him on. I don't know. Somebody told me that they might be able to help make that happen. I'm not that familiar with him, but I've been reading about him, and he does a lot of investigating and makes content on Psy Ops and whatnot and human behavior, which is something that I've always had a big interest in, I should say. So if I'm able to get Chase Hughes on, that would be awesome. But let me pull up something now for the Tyler Robinson trial. Actually, you know what? I'll go small on this.
Criminal defense attorney Dwayne Cates. Dwayne, thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be a 5-day preliminary hearing. What could we expect? Evidence will be included. What should we be keeping our eyes out for this week?
Well, they're going to put on almost all the evidence they have, but it's going to be truncated. They get to hearsay things in. So instead of Tyler Robinson's roommate coming in and testifying, an officer is going to testify about what Tyler Robinson's roommate stated. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of that. That shortens the proceeding, and it's a shortened proceeding because all they really have to do is show probable cause, which is a really low bar. It's that he should be held to account for this. That there's some evidence that he did it, and there's enough evidence to go forward. It's not a conviction. It's not a trial. They're not going to do everything. They're going to put on the forensics. They're going to put on, their expert witnesses. They're going to show video clips. A 5-day preliminary hearing is a long preliminary hearing.
And this is not the trial yet, but it feels somewhat similar. How much could this be a benefit for the defense to see what the prosecution will lay out?
Well, it's always a benefit to the defense, because they get a preview of what the state's case is going to be and how they're going to present it and how the witnesses present and whether they're good witnesses or bad witnesses. Now, a lot of times, especially in my jurisdiction,
One thing that I've been saying a lot the past week or so, probably past 2 weeks, which you're probably going to hear a lot from me this week, is I cannot believe that they are not going to have Lance Twiggs cross-examined. I know it's just a preliminary hearing, but because he is the main witness, he is the one that a lot of this case is going to be revolving around. And he's also the one that has a lot of suspicion surrounding him. Now, I'm not going to try to go, too conspiracy. I'm not going to go too crazy in the conspiracy theory lane. Although I think at this point, I think everybody, even the people that believe Tyler Robinson did it, I don't think anybody actually believes that he acted alone. Now, if you'll concede to the fact that he more than likely did not act alone, the highest probability, in my opinion, would be that Lance Twiggs was involved. Now, if Lance Twiggs is not being forced to be cross-examined at this preliminary hearing, and it's true that he's having some level of immunity, I can't imagine that it would be worth it just to throw Tyler Robinson under the bus for this if the evidence that they have on Tyler Robinson is so strong. I feel like the only way it would make sense for Lance Twiggs to get any kind of immunity is if there were other people that were involved and that he is going to be cooperating for that. Now, up to this point, they're pushing this whole lone shooter. It was Tyler Robinson. He did it. They tried to tell us that his parents knew that he did it and that he confessed, which now we're having, contradictory information on both of those details. We've heard a lot of things. And I've said the whole time that regardless of what happened to Charlie Kirk, I can't imagine that they want the public to know, because if there is a real investigation going on, it would be better for people to be comfortable and to think that they got away with it. If you're looking for somebody, you're not gonna want them to see you coming. Now, there are a lot of people that believe that this was some sort of inside job and that the FBI is just covering it up and could have been involved. And there is good reason to believe that when you look at America's past with political assassinations, whether you're referring to Martin Luther King Jr., which years later, we've got all the details on COINTELPRO, and we found out that the FBI was stalking him, harassing him, allegedly tried to blackmail him. Years later, it turned out that a civil suit ruled that there was likely a conspiracy. And not only that, but, Martin Luther King Jr., when Charlie Kirk first got killed, everybody was saying, well, Martin Luther King Jr. got shot with a 30-06. Well, not necessarily, because years later they said that they couldn't really determine if they could definitively match the bullet to that gun. So we don't know what happened. And like I was saying to Gary the other day, when there's this much distrust between the people and the federal government, and we see time and time again these cover-ups, these political assassinations, these narratives that they push us, whether it's the Martin Luther King Jr. or JFK with the magic bullet, it's not a matter of people being crazy and being conspiracy theorists. It's people identifying a pattern. But that's just my take. Let's see what else this guy has to say.
These things go to grand juries, which are done in secret with a prosecutor and a cop. Okay. And they don't get to put public evidence on publicly. I think it's a good thing that this evidence is going to come in publicly. I think it will it may quell some of the conspiracy theorists rumors that are going around. But we'll see. Let's see what the evidence is.
Yeah, that is so very true. And they do know that this will be live streamed, so it will be all out there in the public. I also want to ask you about some of the key pieces of evidence that we might see, as authorities have said DNA consistent with Robinson was found on the trigger of the rifle used to kill Kirk, the fired cartridge casing, and 2 unfired cartridges and a towel used to wrap the rifle. How key might be DNA, especially in this pretrial motion?
DNA is going to be really important. I mean, if Tyler Robinson's DNA is on the trigger, now they always say consistent with, because it comes out in statistics. They will never say it is absolutely on there. They'll say there's 1 in 4 billion chance that it's somebody other than Tyler Robinson, is how they'll express it. But the DNA evidence will be powerful, and if the ballistics match the bullet and everything that happened, and then his DNA is on the trigger, that's clearly enough for probable cause. Again, there's always ways to challenge it. There's always stuff you can do, but that's pretty damning.
And we also know that there'll be conversations around the death penalty. And in Utah, it's only when a crime has aggravating circumstances, as prosecutors will argue, Robinson case, that Kirk shooting endangered others in attendance. We do know that this was very well attended. There were plenty of people there. How do they prove that? How much weight does the prosecution try to move with putting the death penalty on the line?
Well, I mean, their proof is the video of the assassination. I mean, there are people all over. There's people in front of him. There's people behind him. There's people on each side of him. So it is a possibility that somebody else, other than the intended target, could have gotten hit. So I don't.
See, now this is another issue that I've had, which I know a lot of people share. When this first happened and the FBI was putting out footage, everything was so grainy. Everything was from afar. If they have much higher quality images and video of Tyler Robinson doing this, why didn't they release it sooner? Right? I mean, the entire public saw what happened to Charlie Kirk. We all saw the blood. It was all over social media. And this was another point that I brought up the other day, because especially now as a content creator, I see just how easy it is for these social media companies and YouTube to just turn the dial down and make sure that people don't see information that they don't want to be seen, or hear certain information that they don't want to be heard. But that wasn't the case when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. It was almost like they wanted us to all see it. Did any guys, chat, put a 1 in the chat if you kind of felt the same way at the time or even in hindsight, because in mid-September, not even just the day of, but the whole first week, it was all over social media. It's like every time I'm swiping, it's like you see Charlie, you see the hand signals, you see people celebrating, you see people crying. It really from the very beginning, it felt like some sort of psyop, like some sort of event to manipulate the masses. And I'm not like trying to be all again, I'm not trying to be all conspiratorial, it's just my pattern recognition. It's just what I recognize because then when, we wanted to talk about the files and myself and many others were trying to make content, that didn't get any views. That didn't go viral. People weren't seeing that. They weren't hearing that. It was like they didn't want that out, so it wasn't getting out. But again, when Charlie Kirk got assassinated, that was all anybody saw.
Don't know if that's enough for the death penalty in Utah or not, but just the fact that it was a pre-planned, aggravated murder of somebody that was a high-profile person in public, I think they may get the death penalty.
What is the defense's role in this place in this preliminary hearing? Will they have an opportunity to cross-examine some of the witnesses? Do they want to keep things close to the vest so they don't show their kind of game plan, their strategy too much too?
You know, they've got to present pretty much everything that they can. I mean, if this is a death penalty case, it's going to be scrutinized for years and years and years to come. And so they need to do absolutely everything that they can at every single stage. Okay, so there's no sandbagging in death penalty cases. You got to come out with with what you have.
Actually, I'm going to pull this comment back up because it is 100% accurate. They are emotional vampires, and shout out to Jim Brewer. He's another one. He calls it right out and he says it best that they do these things and they do it to harvest our energy, harvest our attention. It's like they suck out our life force. It's and everybody plays into it, myself included. I mean, look at me. I'm here on YouTube talking about this crap all the time. But I always try to be objective. I try to take a step back. I try to like really pay attention to everything that's going on. And we'll even if you guys want, we could even talk about the interview with Gary the other day too. Because I thought it was really good. I thought it was really good. I know it wasn't what everybody expected it to be or wanted it to be, but I'll get into why I think it went the best that it could have in a little bit.
Of going on at every stage. Otherwise, if he's convicted, then he can say, well, geez, my attorneys, were defective. They didn't do this at the preliminary hearing, and they should have.
That is a very good point. And this is a very high profile case. Even though this isn't the actual trial, it may feel like this. And we do know the widow of Charlie Kirk, Erica Kirk, will be in attendance, as well as potentially Charlie Kirk's family. And we also know recently that they were held in contempt, the prosecutor, for publicly stating some of what's going on in this case. How much is the judge walking a fine line with all the eyeballs on it, with all the potentially security around this case?
Oh, it's going to be it's a big deal. I mean, the judge has got to be really careful to make sure there's not even the hint of impropriety on his part, whether or not it's admonishing witnesses or victims or anybody in the courtroom. Got to establish control of the courtroom, okay, and you have to go from there.
And I want to ask, because we do know that this is all publicly out there. This will be live streamed. We will have
New member, M. Malloy, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Guys, as I said, this is a public live, but this one is probably going to go on to the members only. Um, Probably by tomorrow. I'll leave it on overnight, but then in the morning I'm going to put it on the members only. Also, I've been going through a lot of my older content because there's just so much on there and I'm still learning YouTube and the algorithm and whatnot. So a lot of my older videos, not so much the lives, but a lot of my older videos, I'm moving over to the members only channel as well. So that's going to add to the exclusive content. And I see Trigger Smart in the chat. Shout out to Trigger Smart. I had a great conversation with him the other day. Definitely want to get him streaming with me this week too to cover this. What up, RealBayes? Glad to hear your child is okay. Sorry to hear about your father. He's lucky to have you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm very lucky to have them too, believe me. Let's get back to this though.
Have to go eventually and pick a jury for this case. Do you think there's any concern in their eyes that someone that potentially be above the jury pool will be watching this as well?
Absolutely, and that's always a problem. It's a problem in every high-profile case. It was a problem in the O.J. Simpson case, in the Jodi Arias case. Every case, there's problems with poisoning the jury pool, or getting the jury pool on your side, and and lawyers try to affect it to their benefit. The bottom line is, when you're picking juries, even if it's a high-profile case, you're going to find people say, "I never even really heard of this case." Now, hard to believe, but and then you got to watch out for jurors that lie to you to get on the jury because they want to vote one way or another, and believe it or not, that happens a lot.
Does that happen more when it's such a high-profile case, when it's so
Yeah.
public?
They want to be famous. They want, they want to write a book. They want the interviews afterwards. And, if they're the deciding vote, or the vote that turned it into a hung jury, or whatever it is their agenda is, that they relish in the moment. And you got to really work to try to weed those people out.
That's a very good point, but I'm
One thing that's really bothered me too about this case is when they talk about the tampering of the jury pool. There have been a lot of people that have accused Candace Owens and other people that have been covering this case and leaning more towards the conspiracy side of it, saying that they are tampering with the jury pool and that they are going to be the reason that Tyler Robinson gets off. And not only is it so hypocritical, but it really makes me question the type of case that they have, because you hear them talk about it and that they say that they have all this staggering evidence that they know it's him, that it should be an open shut case. It's okay if that's the case. If you have that much evidence, then what does it matter what anybody is saying? You know? I mean, think about it. It's not like Tyler Robinson is in jail. He's been in jail since what, the 11th, the next day? He's not getting out. It's not like Candace Owens or anybody else is putting out a video and all of a sudden they're giving him a low bail, saying, "Oh, I saw the Candace video. Maybe we should rethink it." Like, no, he's in jail. They have the evidence. And you talk about tampering the jury pool, but you have to remember something. This is America, and the majority of the tampering that I've seen, or potential tampering in the jury pool, has come from the prosecution or people that are pushing the narrative. There were multiple influencers, and I'm not going to sit here rattling off names. I've done it 100 times already. But from the beginning, we're assuming his guilt, saying that he did it. They know he did it. Some went as far to say that they want him dead. Like, isn't that tampering the jury pool? Like, isn't this America where people are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt, a shadow of a reasonable doubt? So when I hear them talk about tampering the jury pool, like it's just really disheartening, because, like I said, most of it came from the prosecution side, and this whole thing, like there's been different levels of corruption and a lack of transparency the whole time, the entire time. Now you can argue that, well, why would they have to be transparent? It's an investigation, it's a prosecution. Okay, that makes sense to a degree. But there have been so many anomalies, so many things that just don't add up. And I've been saying the entire time, for the people that have really been following this, that have really been paying attention, and not just to the scene and what happened or what was going on with Charlie and the differences in his ideology or, relationships leading up to his death, but everything that people have been on the record saying and doing since he's been killed. There has to be a rational explanation for all of it. And a lot of people have been very questionable of Erica Kirk and TPUSA, to say the least. And I want to make one thing very clear, because it's very important. Just because they have changed the positions that Charlie had and took TPUSA into what appears to be a completely different direction with this TPUSA 2.0. That does not equate to them killing him. It does not equate to them being, part of some kind of cover up or conspiracy. Both things can be true. And we see this all the time in politics from both sides, that whenever there's any type of event, that they do whatever they can to capitalize on it. So I just want to put it out there because I think that it's really important, because as this trial goes on and the evidence starts coming out, I think that we're going to see a lot of emotion from people. I think we're going to see a lot of anger from people. And even if they are able to make the case, a convincing case, that Tyler Robinson did this, which I don't think they're going to be able to do, not as a lone shooter. I really don't believe that. But even if they convince the masses that Tyler Robinson was involved and that he was a part of this, and that he is guilty to whatever degree, it does not change the fact of how Erica Kirk and TPUSA have gone forward, or how they went forward since Charlie's death. It doesn't change the fact that, she turned his wake into a photo op, like recording everything, trying to get publicity. It doesn't change the fact that they threw Thomas Massey under the bus. It doesn't change the fact that they didn't raise any awareness for the Epstein files. It doesn't change the fact that they're supporting the war with Iran or not speaking out against it. So, like I said, both things could be true. You could still believe that Tyler Robinson did this and think that, that they're a bunch of shitbags and that they have dishonored his legacy. And that's just my take right now.
Obviously also very unfortunate. The jury, the prosecution, the defense also trying to make sure that does not happen. I do want to ask you, because we know, and you mentioned hearsay will be allowed in this preliminary hearing, evidence will be presented. Between now and the actual trial, will there be any other evidence? Can that still come about? Any other witnesses or evidence? Can there be changes between now and then?
Oh, absolutely. That happens all the time because, you don't know what you don't know. So if a witness pops up somewhere for the defense or the prosecution, I mean, their deadlines for disclosing witnesses and disclosing evidence, and it's not all before the preliminary hearing. There's plenty of time to flesh this case out.
Plenty of time. All right, Dwayne, anything else we're missing? Because 5 days is long, somewhat unusual. What else will you have for us?
I'd be surprised if it goes the full 5 days. I mean, attorneys make estimates, and we generally estimate longer than we think it's going to take, because last thing we want to do is be out of time. So, but it's going to be a barn burner, and it.
Molloy says, would you believe Tyler Robinson did it if there is a mountain of evidence that actually shows it? I'm not doubting that they are going to have some sort of mountain of evidence that shows it. And I've never really doubted that he was at least a part of it. I had a lot of questions about the 30-06. I did not believe that that was the cause of death. I still don't. I will say, and this is one of the things that I was talking about with Gary, is, after doing a lot of research, I realized that this idea that there's a 0% chance that it could have been a 30-06 is it's leaning a little bit. It's leaning a little bit. It is possible, but it's highly, highly, highly improbable. And I feel that even if, let's just, hypothetically speaking, that there is some sort of conspiracy, that they're able to somehow tamper with the ballistics or try to shape everybody's opinion to explain that, oh, well, this was a 30-06 and this is why, because the bullet went here and did this and went there. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to physics. When you have a 30-06, you're talking about, 2,000 or 3,000 pounds of force. Now, as I was saying the other day with Martin Luther King Jr., it hit his chin, like where the bullet has its initial impact, makes a big difference in whether or not you're going to have an exit wound. And with Martin Luther King Jr., he was much closer, but the bullet hit his chin. It hit hard bone right off the bat, went through his face, into his neck, and into different parts of his vertebrae. It hit his cervical and his upper thoracic. That's why it didn't just blow out his neck. It hit a lot of bone. Now, in the case of Charlie Kirk, we're talking about soft tissue. We're talking about soft tissue. Now, even if it went directly into the spine and traveled down, it's still a long shot for that amount of force. Now, what Gary was talking about the other day is the yawing effect. Now, when there's something wrong with the bullets, some sort of malfunction, and the bullet is not on a straight trajectory at full force, and it has some kind of like wobble in its spin, that that minimizes force. And that is true. But again, had Charlie been hit in the bone, if he'd have been hit in the side of the jaw first, I think that there would be you'd be looking at it being much more plausible and much more believable that the wound came from 30-06. But because it hit the soft tissue in the neck, even with the yawing effect, which could be backed by the elongation of the wound, like if you look at the videos of Charlie, it seems to be kind of oval shaped. It's much wider than a typical entrance wound would be. And when I had the debate with Gary and we were going back and forth, I gave him that. I brought that up myself because I'm not leaning one direction or the other. Like, make no mistake, I have no dog in this fight. All I've cared about the entire time is the truth, is just the truth and a rational explanation for everything. And if there is corruption, whether it's from the right, from the left, from the DOJ, from foreign influence, I think that the people should know the truth. I want there to be accountability. I'm tired of this case after case, situation after situation, where the deep state just, covers everything up. Sometimes may or may not be responsible for these things happening, but they cover it up. They just feed us a narrative and they treat us like little children. And on we go. And, if the country was in a better state, okay, if the people in the files were being held accountable, if the economy was better, if we weren't at war, if we weren't worried about all these data centers and companies like Palantir hoarding all of our information, if we're not hearing that, Facebook may have came out of DARPA and been a military operation spun out of Life Touch, if we weren't seeing everything that we're seeing with Bill Gates and having questions about them putting ticks and mosquitoes out there that they're claiming is trying to reduce the population, but then we have all these diseases that they're trying to push vaccines for. Like, these are all data points, and Gary was making fun of me the other day, like, my term data points, but it's 100% true. It's spot on. Like, I'm not fabricating anything. I'm not making anything up. Everything that I'm saying right now is factually accurate. And even my theories, when I can't pinpoint the exact details, with that, again, I'm being objective. I'm not sitting here saying that TPUSA did this or that Erica Kirk did this or that Erica was a honeypot or anything like that. I'm saying that both things could be true. This very well could have been Tyler Robinson. He could have been MK Ultra radicalized by the left to do this. And that once it's done, that they say, okay, well, now that Charlie's out of the way, like, we could just go through with A, B, and C. He was against it. He's not with us anymore. This is what's best for the country. And we're going to, I don't know. And neither do you. And anybody who's saying that they know and speaking in definitive terms, you have to be questionable of. And that goes for both sides. And I think that it's very shady. And I think a lot of you guys can agree with me that when you see these people pushing the narrative and they're so sure that Tyler Robinson did this, and they're so sure that it's a 30-06, and their rationale for explaining this isn't even consistent with, their takes on other cases in the past and everything that we've seen. It's reasonable for people not to trust each other. It's reasonable to call people out. Now, let's see. We got B Rod's 3000 member for 1 month. What's up, big dog? I'm late to the party. Well, you're here now, and that's all that matters. And, while we're on the subject talking about Gary, I want to thank him for the other day. I do. Me and him disagreed on way more than we agreed about. And I thought that I caught him tripping up on a couple of things at a couple of different times. But, I just want to say, the point of him coming on, it was to give him an opportunity to speak, because I had attacked him. He didn't even know who I was. I made multiple videos about him, multiple posts. He called me out. He said, "Let's do a show." I said, "Bring it." We had a couple of conversations. We were both respectful about it. I don't think either of us knew exactly what to expect when we came on. I think both of our defenses were up. I was actually sick as a dog that day too. I was not on my game. But, it still went really good. I was feeling better by the end of it, but that first hour, I had a splitting headache. It felt like crap. But anyway, um, but I was really pleasantly surprised to see how it turned out, because it at times we were debating, but then like halfway in, it felt like we were both just sharing our platform, and that, like it was like a competition where it wasn't even about being right. It was about showing each other and showing all of you guys that we were willing to be objective, that we were willing to platform the other side, that we were willing to let them speak, and we were going to make our points, and that you guys were going to come to your own conclusions. And it was really good. And him and I had, a pretty good conversation afterwards, and we found some mutual respect, and that respect was grounded in the love for our country, the love for the love for that we both share for America. And he has different views on the way that the Epstein files were handled, and Trump, and what Trump is up against, and that's okay. That's okay. Now, am I gonna sit here saying that, oh, well, he's not a Fed, he's not this, he's not that? No, I'm not saying that either. Do I think that he's a bad guy? I don't think so. And should I call them a traitor? No. People are allowed to have different perspectives. People are allowed to have different beliefs, and different beliefs in what they think is best for America. And he wasn't pandering uh, to any specific foreign nations. I'll just say, it is what it is. But like I said, I was pleasantly surprised at the way that that went. I know some of you guys weren't happy about it. I know a lot of his people weren't happy about it. If you look we both streamed it, and it's funny because you look at my comments, you do see some people that are more objective, and you look at his comments, and they are just all trashing me. They just all think that I'm a nut job, and whatever. It is what it is. But it was important for me, after all the times that I said that my platform is not an echo chamber, and that, I do just want the truth, and I do want to be objective. For me to be able to have, a toxic back and forth with someone, and then be able to like just sit here and hash it out and go over the facts and go back and forth. And at times we were bumping heads a little bit, at times we were joking. I thought that it was really good. I think that anybody that was truly a fan of Charlie Kirk would agree that, if nothing else, that is how Charlie thought that we should have had it done. That's the way that things should be done. And, the fact that we've both been covering this case from two different sides, I feel like it would have been disingenuous to do it any other way. Now, could I have been more aggressive and cut him off and tried to put more emphasis on the points where I thought I was right, or maybe held back a little and not given him as much credit, when I thought that he might have been right about something? Yeah, I could have done that. I could have tried to shape that whole debate into something else to make it look like I'm smashing him or dominating him, like a lot of you guys were saying. But again, I think that would have been disingenuous, because it wasn't about that. Like, I didn't bring Gary on to attack him. I attacked him to bring him on, and once I got him on, everything we both said is on the record. I mean, there's transcripts, like we made our positions known for everybody, and in front of everybody, to each other. And I think that that matters. I think that that is something that people need to consider more about, like the entertainment aspect of whether or not it was a good enough debate, or there was enough fireworks or whatever. But let's get back to this. I'm going to play a very, very short clip. We're not going to show what happened to Charlie, obviously, but just for the context for the next part of tonight's show. Now, we all know what's about to happen here. This is the moment before Charlie was hit. I won't even use the word shot. This is the moment before Charlie went down. We all see the hand motion. We've seen the hand signal. And yesterday, I had been posting about it. And something got brought to my attention. Now, this hand signal that Dan Flood did, it is undeniable. It's undeniably, in my eyes, it's undeniably a definitive signal. But the question is, what does it mean? Why did he do it? It's hard for me to believe that anybody there would stand up, take a step forward, look back, and do a signal to signal Charlie being killed right before he's killed, especially when they know that he's on camera. It's almost idiotic. But again, talking about data points, it is a data point. It was done. You know, there were other motions from other people that, you know, if you view all the angles at once, it looks like everything is in sync with each other to some degree. I've seen some people even argue that Charlie made the first signal by rubbing his finger on his nose. These are all data points. They all matter. Now, yesterday when I was posting this on X, I forgot the name, but somebody brought it up that there was a comedian that started doing this back in 2005, and that the signal has a meaning, that it's anti-establishment, that it's anti-Zio, that it's anti the same people that Charlie had been butting heads with from within and working against. That it's a signal to rebel against the neocons, pretty much. Now, there is a soccer player that had gotten in a lot of trouble for doing the same signal after goals. I didn't realize this at the time that Kelly Raybon had covered this. Her and Jordan Henshaw were on Jesse on Fire's show. I don't have the clip here. Jordan had actually, I can find it. I think Jordan commented it. Maybe I'll find it later. But I did not realize that this was a data point for a lot of the people that believe that the whole thing was staged and that Charlie is alive. Now, I'm not about to sit here and, you know, lean hard back in that direction. But if that was the case, if the whole thing was staged and Charlie wanted to quit, it would make a little bit more sense for Dan Flood to do this. It would. Now, I have another clip here that has been brought up by people with the same beliefs. Now, this is when they are carrying Charlie to the SUV. I don't know if you guys have seen this clip, but I want to see if you guys notice what I notice. You see this woman right here? I don't know her name, but I have heard that she works for UVU. Now, the past couple of weeks, I've been talking to different people behind the scenes. I've been paying attention to other interviews regarding UVU. And at the time when Charlie first got killed, everybody was putting it on his security. Everybody was putting it on Brian Harpole. I've covered pretty frequently how, in my opinion, Brian Harpole was trying to distance himself from Dan Flood and that hand signal on the Sean Ryan show. But one thing that really stands out to me here, all right, this woman is just a couple of feet away from everybody trying to put Charlie in the SUV. But she's not recording the security team. She's not recording Charlie. She's recording the crowd. Now, pay attention to this girl right here under the TikTok logo and try to go back and forth between this woman and this woman with the camera. You see? You see how she's pivoting to turn along with her? Why is a woman who works at UVU filming the crowd standing right where they're carrying Charlie, right next to the SUV? She's not filming the security. She's not filming Charlie. She's not filming the car. But she's filming the crowd. She's filming somebody running by. And then look, the second that girl passes her by, she's tucking her phone and she's going away. I find this odd. Even the person who's filming this, look, as soon as she's done filming, as soon as they're getting them in the car, what does this person do? They're pointing the camera down into the rocks. And look at this. This video is a minute long. No, 30 seconds long. You know, like I said, whatever happened to Charlie and whatever Tyler Robinson's role is, every single one of these anomalies has to be accounted for. They have to be explained. They just do. There's just so much weirdness with this whole case. And again, I'm not sitting here trying to say, oh, they staged it, Charlie's alive. You know, there was a time that I thought that. But then seeing the way that everything played out convinced me that he was killed. And I'm not convinced that he was killed by any specific individual or group either. You know, this idea that it had to be our not so greatest ally or that it had to be TPUSA. I think that is very ignorant. You know, in a lot of conspiracies, when we talk about 9/11, for instance, we don't just look at the scene. We don't just look at everything that built up to it. I mean, it's important, don't get me wrong. But a lot of times now, when we're talking 25 years later, we think about who benefited. Who benefited? It wasn't the American people. We know that much. All those wars, opioid crisis, $8 trillion deficit, 10 million Americans lost their homes in the 2008 financial collapse that Obama ended up letting Blackstone and other money management firms buy up those homes in wholesale and bail those companies out instead of bailing out the American people. But, you know, it's easy to look back years later when some of these declassified files start coming out and when we see who benefited in the long run. And it's easy now to look at Erica Kirk as the CEO and all the money that they've brought in donations. But I want you guys to ask yourself honestly, do you think that TPUSA is benefiting from Charlie Kirk being assassinated? You know what I mean? Like, think about it. Like, most of the world hates these people. Their influence is way down. They don't have the same influence that they once did. You know, they're struggling. They're really struggling to get their image back up and public opinion. You know, hiring somebody like Andrew Wilson to come in and get ready to go in the trenches and debate and teach other people how to debate. You know, again, I know people make fun of me for saying it, but these are all data points. Like they just are. They just are. $20 super from Peter Thiel. Thank you very much. Would you be interested in joining my private dialogue society? Oh, that's funny. You guys are too much. I see Sorry Not Sorry saying that they miscalculated. Yes, that's very possible. That's very possible that whoever was behind this underestimated Trump. Because listen, Trump gets involved in a lot of scandals, and people have always gone back to him. No matter how bad he screwed up, his supporters always came back. They always got back on board. They always kept supporting. But I think that this was all just way too much. I think the combination of him wanting to cover up the Epstein files, Charlie Kirk getting assassinated with all the weirdness that came with it, and then going to war with Iran was just too much. It was just too much. Yeah, for me personally, it was too much. He was already starting to lose me with the files. And then once Charlie and ICE and everything else started playing out, I'm this is not what I signed up for. This is not what you promised. Everything that I've been seeing happen the past year or two is everything that I was afraid that Hillary Clinton was going to do back in 2016. I thought that Trump was going to do literally the opposite of a lot of what he's doing. Now, people have brought up other good things that Trump has done and that this FBI and this administration has done. And listen, there's truth there. Not everything that Trump does is hurting us. Trump is actually doing a lot of other things that are benefiting the country. But you have to look at the big picture. You can't isolate these things. You can't say just because this piece of legislation helps here and he weeded that out there and this here and yeah, he created some jobs here and arrested some people here and we closed up the border. That's all fine and dandy. But that's what he's supposed to do. That's what he's supposed to do. A lot of these problems that he's solving are problems that never should have came about to begin with. And you can't just say oh yeah, I did my chores, but when you burn the house down, you know what I mean? It doesn't work that way. If your kid's playing with matches and burns the house down and kills the family dog, you're not going to go and say, oh yeah, but they did the dishes the other day. They took out the garbage every week for 3 months. It's no, you have to look at the big picture. And when it comes to the big subjects, the big topics, the things that really, really matter, that are really affecting us on a day-to-day basis, that are going to dictate the future of our nation, that's where you have to hold the most stock. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel. And I know a lot of you guys feel the same way. Kash Patel comes out all the time talking about these big busts. They got these people with weapons. They got these people that were trafficking children, and that is great. I'm not going to bash the guy for doing a good job. But, these Epstein files have casted such a dark shadow on this administration. It's just going to take a lot more. It's going to take a lot more. And this idea now, this narrative that they're trying to spin, and that we're seeing from a lot of these other content creators, a lot of people on YouTube, a lot of people in the media and on Rumble, that they're trying to say that people like me are just a bunch of conspiracy theorists. We're a bunch of black pillars. We're not even really conservatives. We're Democrats. We just want to take TPUSA down to destroy MAGA because we want the Democrats to get back in power. Or because some of us have some kind of ties to a foreign nation like Russia or China, or that China's brainwashing us into believing all this stuff. It's all bullshit, folks. It's all bullshit. And the only people that are believing this crap are the people that have been believing Trump's bullshit lies about the files and about the war. We had intelligence telling us for years, even the weeks and months leading up to the first war with Iran, that was brief, thank God, that there was no reason to believe that they were trying to build nuclear weapons. We had no reason. We did not go into this war with Iran because we were concerned that Iran was building nuclear weapons, that our intelligence was telling us that they were building nuclear weapons. We got into this war because we were getting that information from a foreign nation that has their own agenda, that has been wanting this war for decades, that for decades has seen Iran as a problem, and that they wanted Iran out of the picture. Now, does this mean, hold on one second, guys. I'm actually going to play this clip.
Is that true? I was just reading in the library that America gave smallpox to the Native Americans. So it's just this long trail. So you always think about like these little steps. What are the steps to make this one thing feel natural? And when I was learning this, one of the guys who taught me said that, walked me through the scenario. And he said, imagine going on a date and you never shook this girl's hand. You never helped her through a door. You never put your hand on her shoulder, nothing. You haven't made any physical contact with her. And at the end of the night, you lean in and try to kiss her. And it feels weird. It feels off. It doesn't feel right. And it's because nothing happened before that. So what we're really doing and what we're really seeing in today's world is these small incremental steps to change human identity to some ultimate outcome. And the steps that we can see, if we kind of backwards analyze this, we're seeing division and tribalism on unprecedented levels. So if I'm left wing, or if I lean way left, even moderately to the left, and I go on social media and start scrolling my feed, I'm going to see people on the right still on my feed. But the type of people that I see that are on the right are going to be the dumbest, loudmouth morons that you could ever imagine, just to piss me off. I mean, if I'm a conservative, I'm going to go on there and see the dumbest idiots that you could ever imagine, just to make it me feel morally superior and make me feel intellectually superior for having chosen this path.
And drive a more intense hate
Yeah.
to the other side.
Yeah. And we talked about, before we started filming, you and I talked about psychedelics and how it dissolves this feeling of separation. And it seems to be the opposite is what's happening now. It's just massive amounts of separation.
Sorry about that, folks. I had two people calling me. Hold on, is my mic going? Yeah, my mic's going. And it was my girl calling too. I just wanted to make sure that the baby was okay. Now, he's getting into psychedelics. I have not seen this full interview yet. I don't know if he's going to bring up what happened in the 60s. You see, there was a lot going on in the 60s. And not just with MK Ultra. But when they had all the wars going on, and Vietnam, and before that, the Korean War, you know, one of the theories is that they were using music and LSD to try to manipulate the masses into being more peaceful, to try to avoid rebellion. And one of my fears is that now, and this is what he appears to be touching on, is that we're seeing the opposite. We went from the government, deep state, whoever you want to call it, manipulating the masses to not rebel, to now it kind of feels like they're manipulating us into provoking each other. And that is something that I've been talking about for months. But let's keep going with this.
How many times and from how many objects and groups can I get you to separate yourself from? It's the opposite of, I mean, it is so divisive that I think we are seeing levels like, I think 20 years ago, 10 years ago, if you ask someone if somebody should be killed for their opinion or for having offensive opinions, I think 99.9% of people would say, no, that's ridiculous. But now it's acceptable. And it's only acceptable because the idea became identity. So it's idea, then ideology, and then identity. And this is the pathway you walk anyone down in a Psy Op. Idea, ideology, identity. And we adopt an ideology like, oh, I agree with these beliefs. We need to pay people who can't afford it. We need to do this program. We need to instill this one thing in the school, whatever it is. So now I'm starting to adopt an ideology. And the moment that happens, now I have a little tribe of people that agree with me all over social media. And now it's identity because someone posts something that's very political, but I believe in it so much that I post it. And now the first day, the first week that I start posting that content, now my identity changes. And just like in a conversation when I said, Sean, how'd you get this open? Or look at these other people that are really closed off. It's the exact same thing that's happening on social media. It's identity. And so it's rewiring how I see myself.
What do you guys think about what he's saying right now, chat? Are you guys noticing all the division, all the different groups? Everybody identifying with different ideologies and finding themselves just grouped in with these other clusters of people that have the same views, that watch the same creators, that follow the same conspiracies or believe the same conspiracies or don't. You know, I talk a lot about pattern recognition, and I've been noticing a lot of this stuff for a while. You know, Chase Hughes does seem pretty chill and pretty smart. If I could get this guy on, I'm definitely going to.
Which means that I can take drastic measures to enforce it because it's part of who I am. It's not what I believe, it's who I am as a person. And you imagine, like, you've been an operator for a while. You viewing yourself as an operator is who you are as a person. That's why you could do this, and that's why you did that. It wasn't because, like, I have a lot of really good ideas in my head. My training was great. It's you. Your confidence was in yourself and not the ideas. So the moment I get someone to place all of those ideas into identity, we take morality off the table.
Shit.
And it's getting worse.
Yeah, no kidding. What are the biggest divisions that you see happening right now?
Well, obviously the left versus right is the biggest. And the one thing that I would want everyone in the world to hear when it comes to all the shit we see on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, whatever it is, you have more in common with someone who voted for the other guy than the billionaire who is funding a lot of these ideas and ideologies that you're seeing on social media.
That is 100% correct. You know, it's funny because I was actually doing a live stream with somebody the other day, a couple weeks ago. And they were pretty surprised when they found out that I was not a Democrat and that I was a Trump supporter. And they were more so surprised when I said that even now, with everything coming out in the files, that I don't necessarily believe, not necessarily, that I don't believe that Trump was a PDF. I don't. That's something that I've been saying the entire time, and I've stood by. I'm not here saying that I know for a fact that he's not. I'm just saying that what I believe is based on mostly my own research. And I spent a long time looking into Epstein and the people that he ran with and the people that he hung out with and the people that he worked with. And his relationship with Trump, I feel, was really, really blown out of proportion. When you really follow the money and you look at what Epstein's agenda was, him and Trump ran in the same circles. They went to a lot of the same parties, but on a day-to-day basis, I don't know. And then what really helped influence my opinion on that, or shape my opinion, was Virginia Giuffre, because Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell recruited Virginia Giuffre when she was working for Trump at Mar-a-Lago. And she spoke out against a lot of people. And Ghislaine Maxwell called her a liar for at least one individual, and what she said happened with him. And she sued Ghislaine for defamation and won, or Ghislaine settled. And this same person said that Trump never, that he wasn't one of them, that he wasn't like that he didn't do anything like that to her. And I feel like it's really disingenuous to overlook things like that. Oh, we got a $10 super from your greatest ally. Thank you very much. Yo, some of these people with these names and pictures on here, it's so funny. We got the real Amorosa here. Just because we have the ability to pick and choose what we see, it doesn't mean we will be fed it. And we've seen a lot of creators flip-flop and try to bring their audiences with them. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely truth in that. Me, I don't think that I really flip-flop, though. I think I'm just very transparent. I'm always reading. I'm always learning. And I'm just always being honest with you guys. When you're covering these types of things, and you're literally like, I mean, think about it. You have the government literally trying to lie to everybody for a living, and not just with the news, but to try to hurt us with a combination of our education, even the textbooks that we learn in school, the mainstream media, obviously the news, but also the music that we listen to, the TV shows that we watch, the movies that we watch. Like this is all like factored into how they work and construct social engineering. So when you're trying to analyze it while you're in it, you're going to have different theories at times. It's not going to be easy to make sense of things. There's no smoking gun where you're just going to see it and be like, all right, that's what it is. And this person did this because they wanted that to happen. I mean, we see it. It's easier to identify with certain things, 9/11, for instance, exactly what happened on 9/11 and who was directly responsible is one debate. But at this point, I don't think that there's any debate that information was withheld to push through agendas. That much is clear. When you get into all the technical details, it gets a little bit messier. It gets a little bit harder to really pinpoint. But you guys let me know in the chat what you think about that.
You have way more in common. And you see these idiots on TV, whether they're left or right, based on who you are in real life. And the algorithm is showing you the opposite, right? The idiots on the other side. That's not real. That's a tiny percentage of the population, a tiny one, I think. If you go to like Walmart or Target and you're standing in line and you see somebody that voted for the other person, they're not an asshole. They're not slapping you in the face. And we have so.
I say this all the time. And I usually reference that when I speak out against anti-Semitism. Because it's true. When you go to the grocery store, when you unplug and you touch grass and you go out in the world and you're just going about your day to day, and you take your kids to the park and they're meeting other kids and you're talking to the parents, or you're holding the door open for someone in the grocery store, you have random conversations on the street. You're not thinking in your head, like, who did they vote for, or what religion, like, how do they pray? Like, all you really care about is if they're nice, if they're respectful, if their kids are playing nice with your kids. All this other crap that we see, it's all online. It's all online. Once you get into creators, it's like, oh, you watch this one, you watch that. All of a sudden, it's like baseball. It's like sports fans, in a sense. I'm on the East Coast. I live in New York. You know, if you know anything about baseball, the Yankees and the Red Sox have had a rivalry for a long time. You know, I'm more of a hockey guy. The Rangers and the Philadelphia Flyers have always had a rivalry, and the Devils for that matter. You know, and like and even that, like with the sports, it's the same thing with the social engineering that I was just referring to with TV shows and movies and music. It's the same thing. And it all adds up to like this level of tribalism and some level of divide and conquer. I like Chase Hughes a lot. Let's keep going with this for a little bit.
So much in common with each other. Like we all want fair income. We all hate taxes. We all want our kids to be safe. We all want our kids to be well fed. We want to be able to have fun and not pay too much taxes. Like we have so much in common with those people. We have nothing in common with a lot of these elites who are kind of orchestrating a lot of the shit that we're seeing on social media.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Would 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
100% agree with that.
I've studied hypnosis for 25 years. And I work with one-on-one clients. I work with Formula One athletes. I've worked with pro fighters, UFC champions, PGA golfers. The one thing that I've noticed when I'm working with all of these people is that the moment that we start understanding that every time I'm looking at another person there, they are scared like I am. They're lonely like I am. And all of these things that all of us hide from the rest of the world. I'm lonely. I'm scared things aren't going to go right for me. I don't know if things are going to work out. I have to hedge everything. Are my kids going to be okay? All the stuff we worry about, we have that in common with everybody. And I don't know, this is like, so I don't want this to turn into a Mr. Rogers episode, but we really got to come back and realize that we have to understand that we've got more in common with those people than the elites.
Yeah, I think it's definitely not going to be a Mr. Rogers episode. But you know, I mean, so you know,
All right, guys, I just started a poll. I'm really curious to see how this is going to go. I want everybody to be honest. I said, have conspiracy theories changed the way that you guys watch movies and TV shows? Sorry. Oh, we got another one. Erica Franz Vey, $10, saying stop. Thank you very much. Good luck at trial.
everybody hears the term, you know, divide and conquer, divide and conquer, divide and conquer. We've heard it several times, you know, all by design, heard that several times.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, who, I guess what I'm asking is we are divided on so many things. Yeah, it's red versus blue. It's black versus white. It's Christian versus non-Christian. It's LGBTQ or not. It's just fuck, man. It's everywhere. Everywhere you look, you can't find anything.
Yeah, the trolling is definitely a lot of fun tonight. You guys with these trolling accounts, you can keep the supers coming. I had to take off for like 3 days in a row, and this is a late pop-up live. So any and all generosity is greatly appreciated.
Thing that's not division anymore. Race, religion, politics.
I have a theory about this. If you'll indulge me,
Yeah.
here. Are you familiar with Maslow's pyramid, Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
No.
So it's a hierarchy of what we need to kind of survive, basically, as humans. And there's a few levels to it. The bottom is just survival. Above that is safety. And above that is love and belonging. And then it's self-esteem, and then actualization, like I'm living my purpose in life. If we have a few of these pyramid levels met, we will always worry about the next one up. You with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got kind of the survival and safety met. Like, you're not going to see debates about gender in a country where people are starving. It will never happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're only going to see the next level that people are worried about on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Guys, pay attention because he's actually making a very, very good point right now.
So if we have our survival met, our safety is met, the next thing up is social and belonging. And that's where we get that placebo. That's where we get that little placebo. And the way, since we're not fulfilling that, that gets to be something that occupies us. So we focus on what makes us different. I have to isolate myself and I have to find a tribe of people who believe in this one small thing that I believe in. And I'm going to try to divide myself as much as possible. When you have societies that are high up, that have all the belonging stuff handled, the next thing is esteem. So if belonging feels like it's met, our self-esteem and our definition of who I am as a person, that stuff has got to be conquered. That's the next thing. And all that we're seeing now is like, I have to identify with this one thing to increase my feeling of esteem, even though the social part of that pyramid isn't being met. We're kind of jumping over it, and we can never get to the esteem part because social can no longer be fulfilled.
Gotcha. Okay. Why, what is the point of the division? I mean,
Guys, do me a favor if you haven't already. If you could hit that like, I would really appreciate it. It helps the video go out, it helps the channel. If you're enjoying and you're not a member, you could become a member or at least subscribe to the channel is what I was actually going to say. But yeah, if you want to support the channel, you could become a member too. I do a lot of members only content, and I'm going to be putting a lot of my older videos, instead of just unlisting them, I'm going to be putting them on my members only so that they're still there for you guys to watch.
I get it. Creates broken society. Nobody can agree on shit. Nobody gets along.
Yeah.
People stand, essentially a nation stands for nothing because it's so fucking divided. Totally understand that. Who wants us divided? And why? You know, at the beginning, you were talking about 9 people at a marble round table. Do you think that's what it is? Or is it Russia, China, anybody, you know, all these foreign actors? Maybe, I mean, obviously, not just maybe, obviously, you know, not all foreign actors.
Yeah.
A lot of them coming from Inconis.
Yeah. I don't have many theories when it comes to this, but I think there are some elites that have put some desired end goals out there to people that work for them or people that do their bidding.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is just a byproduct of those end goals needing to be met. Some of that's military industrial complex, and some of that is another country wanting our economy to start kind of getting crippled a little bit. But I think that it's multifaceted. And I think that anybody who comes up and says, oh, it's this one guy at the World Economic Forum, or it's this one guy who does this thing, I don't think that's the case.
I don't think that that's the case either. And I don't think that it's just 9 people at a round table. I think that it's a group that probably consists of a couple hundreds, if not thousands. Now, everybody in America at this point understands that the military industrial complex influences a lot more of our government than that they should. We know that a lot of these wars are really for profit. A lot of what we're fed about other countries and what's going on in other countries, and you know, some certain events that have happened in our country, you know, that it's all propaganda to get the American people to rally behind our military and our country to go fight these other countries, not because what they're telling us is true, but to support the narrative, to support the agenda, so that they could do what they want to do. Now, what I've been spending a lot of time thinking about, when you look at the Clean Break initiative that they were talking about back in the 90s and eliminating 7 different countries, the last country on that list is Iran. And now the list of countries that are, you know, not a part of the establishment is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And, you know, we saw Trump go into Venezuela not long ago and take the president. We've seen the recent changes, what's happening in Argentina. We've seen a lot of propaganda trying to, program us to prepare us for some sort of conflict with Cuba. But my question is if all of these things happen, then what's the end goal? Like, what happens next? If there's no more wars to be fought, if they conquer all these different foreign nations that they've been talking about conquering for all these years, then what's next? What is it going to mean? What's the true end goal? And what is that going to mean for us, the American people? It's just something to think about.
I think a lot more of this is just a byproduct of companies needing money than people really understand. I think a lot of it is this just companies doing things and engineering outcomes where they can get money. It just so happens that this might be that end. But you hear people talk about the Great Reset and all that, which I'm no expert in any of those like international politics stuff. But that's terrifying to me to hear people talk about that kind of stuff.
Right.
Change your life, because we've got stuff like TikTok now. You know what the kids in China see on TikTok?
Oh yeah, they're solving math equations and
Yeah.
physics and
How to
it's
stretch.
all educational.
Yeah.
Here it's all tits, ass, booze, division,
Yeah.
hate.
Yeah.
It's porn,
Violence. Yeah.
violence.
And
Guys, put a 1 in the chat if you go on TikTok a lot. Because I was posting on TikTok for a while, and then I was thinking about doing lives on TikTok, more so to practice for what I'm doing now. And one thing that I've noticed on the TikTok lives is you see a lot of lonely people. Like, there are a lot of people that seem to go live, without purpose, like just trying to find a connection that they're missing in their personal life. And I find that to be really sad. There's a lot of fun stuff and cool stuff on TikTok too. I don't really go on TikTok anymore ever since they forced the sale to people I don't necessarily agree with or trust. But that is something that stood out to me because I was on there a little bit recently, thinking about posting again. But I feel like I see a lot of lonely people on there. And that's why I always say at the end of every show, like be kind, it's like it's so true. It's not just like a saying, like people just need to be nice to each other. Regardless of what disagreements you have, and it's so easy to be harsh online and on social media and in comments and in chats. And for the majority of people, they'll just brush off anything that they see on social media, but there are some people that do get affected by this stuff, and I feel like you never know just how much of a positive difference you can make in somebody's life by being nice to them if they're in a bad place, in a dark place.
if that doesn't tell you exactly what's happening in the world, then you need to look somewhere else, or you need to figure this out. If China has control of TikTok, or Chinese interests have control of TikTok, and we're seeing all of that stuff, and they're seeing stuff that's fantastic for them and beneficial to them as a society, that's a psyop. It's clear as day. It's not some theory. It's obvious, and it's like right in our faces. And it's in our face as much as it was during COVID, when we had people speaking from borrowed authority that we need to trust the science. Why aren't you trusting the science, Sean? Which put 2 masks on today. All of that kind of stuff that we endured, it was just so. That's why so many people woke up, because it was accidentally way too obvious. And I'm glad that it was.
Do you think that there is, are we done with the waking up period? Do you know what I'm getting at? I mean, it's we've heard this for so long. Oh, you need to wake up. You need to wake up. You're asleep. You're asleep at the wheel. You need to wake up. You don't know what's going on. I mean, I feel like so much shit has happened in the past 4, 5, 8 years that, in my opinion, the waking up was done a long time ago. I mean, do you think people are still waking up, realizing they've been lied to, that you can't trust the government. You can't.
I just noticed this comment. I want to pull it up. It's wait, what is this? Punk it. All right. I don't know how to pronounce the middle of it. Sorry. All right. So I'm just going to say Punk Archive. Man, I'm sobering up from at least 10 years of opioid abuse. Being just 26, being in Chile, I cannot tell you the value of sharing and just having people read you. It's like my way to recovery. Well, to that, I will tell you, I actually had my own experiences with opioids. I had multiple back surgeries. I suffered from back injuries for a long time. And, I had a period, it wasn't 10 years, it was about half that, where it was pretty bad. I was like, I couldn't get out of bed without painkillers. And once, while I was in it, while I was taking the painkillers, it was like my life was just in cruise control. I was not in a good place. The longer I was taking it, the more hopeless I felt, the more I started leaning towards not so much other addictions, but just other forms of gratification to get me by. And then it wasn't until I got sober, I ended up stopping cold turkey just because like my life had just spiraled so far out of control. Between the way I was spending money and working, not working, being in pain, the women I was dealing with, that like I just got to a point where I just felt like, you know what, like I cannot do this anymore. Like I don't want to do this anymore. Like I felt like I would like literally rather die than keep going. And once I hit that realization, and I had a young daughter, I was just like, you know what? Like, I want to live. I just want to be better. Like, I know that I'm better. And I literally stopped cold turkey overnight and I never went back. And I had stopped before in the past. I had taken breaks, but the longest that the breaks were like a couple of months. And the last time, it wasn't until I was maybe 8 or 9 months without, that like one day I woke up and I noticed a significant difference. Like it was really out of my system. Like whatever had gotten tangled in my brain was finally like, like the wires finally got right back the way they should be for the most part, at least. And it was just it was very it was a moment. It was a moment. Like that was when I felt like it was like another chapter of my life that had started. It wasn't so much like once I quit, but the whole process of quitting. And there's like a lot of emotions that go because when you're on opioids for a long period of time, I don't know if any of you guys ever dealt with that or alcohol or whatever, but like there are changes that happen in your brain that you don't realize how much is going on there and how much is being affected until you take a real extended period of time where you're flushing it all out. And then, for me, it was just like one day I woke up and I'm like, like I just knew something was different. And that was when I really started like really changing my life and really getting on a better path that led me to where I am now. So I noticed that comment and I just wanted to share. And life is a journey, man. It really is.
Can't trust the institutions. You can't.
And there is a God. Make no mistake, there is a God.
Can't trust the mainstream media. You can't trust much of anything these days. I mean, in part of I understand too. I mean, entire generations have just had their world flipped completely upside down because they had put so much trust in institutions and our government and media. And
I think at a certain level, like people like my parents, probably your parents, place a large amount of trust in the government and a large amount of trust in the news because that was the only source for so long. And it just became habitual and became based in identity. Like if you don't trust what they're saying, what the FDA is telling you, who are you going to trust?
mm-hmm.
So like I'll hear that from like my dad. And I think that's woven into identity. But I don't think the waking up period is done at all. I think they're going to go twice as hard. And I think within the next year, if we look at standard Psy Ops, if the Psy Op isn't working, there's either A, double down, or B, stop. And I think they're going to double down.
You think they're going to double down?
Let me check this poll that we did real quick. And then we're going to start the next one. All right. So I asked you guys before, have conspiracy theories changed the way that you see movies and TV shows? We only had 69 votes, but 84% of you said yes. 16% of you said no. Now I'm going to start another one. Do you think we are currently living through multiple Psy Ops? Not just one, multiple.
Oh, yes. And I think it's going to happen in the next
Great.
12 months. So
Why do you think it's going to happen within the next 12 months?
there's too many people waking up. When Elon bought Twitter and a lot of this stuff, there's tons of misinformation and all that stuff all over social media. But I think that enabled so much data to come out that people are going to start saying, just a little bit of a backpedal, just pump the brakes a little bit on my trust in institutions and things like that. And I think it's enough that more people are going to wake up. We're going to have a lot more people in the next year because I think it's going to get a lot more obvious.
What are some of the psyops you see going on today? Let's bring up the alien UFO UAP shit. Is that a psyop? Do you think that's a psyop?
I think.
Is that building a psyop? I mean, we've heard about Project Bluebeam. I think that's the false flag alien invasion that's supposedly coming.
Which
I'm
I
not
think
fucking throwing it out there like it's some crazy
Right.
conspiracy idea, because at this point I'm like, shit, probably.
Yeah, it would just make sense. Like when the New Jersey drones were happening, I think right before the election or whenever that was insane.
Mhm.
And I put a video out on that and how.
This is another good comment by Punk. I think we're just buying into the psyops we crave to solve. I agree and disagree because I don't think all of the psyops are so obvious. I think most of the psyops that are going out are a little more subtle. But I think that with conspiracy theories, that there is a lot of truth in this, that some people chase the conspiracy theory even when it's not there. You know, it's like you get addicted to them. They become a form of entertainment. It's almost like a puzzle that you want to solve. And, you know, it's scary when you think about how many of them have been proven to be real over time. And then the more that you see are real, then the more that you believe that the next one is. You know what I mean? And I think that is what we've seen with Charlie Kirk is, you know, you can't look at it like an isolated event. But then again, if you don't look at it like an isolated event, it's like, how do you not think that it's a psyop? How do you not think that it's a conspiracy? You know, and that's where I think it gets tough for a lot of people. And I think that's where it also gets easier for a lot of people to just check out. And you see the cognitive dissonance come into play. And they just want to listen to somebody that's telling them that everything's going to be okay, that it was an isolated incident, and trust the government, and they're going to get justice, and life's going to move on. You know, because it's like once you start going down these rabbit holes and you start seeing everything that's going on, you have that level of awareness and you unplug from the matrix, life gets a little more scary and the anxiety goes up for sure.
We are in the middle of a psyop, but it's not the craft. I'm not sitting here saying like these little tic tacs and all that stuff are a bunch of psyops. The response to it, I think, is a psyop.
What do you mean the response?
How we see people online responding to it. We see people going out on podcasts and stuff that have talking points from the government.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have someone that has talking points from the government, that's a spokesperson, not a whistleblower.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm sitting here and I say, well, I can't say this, but I can tell you this one thing, that's government release that's a controlled government release of information in my estimation. And so, yeah, I think the public perception management, which is the first step of Psy Ops, if you remember, is perception and then context, right? That we're managing the way that our perception of the UFO UAP thing is being managed is absolutely a psyop.
So they are creating the perception,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Creating the perception, and then they're gonna give us the next thing.
Yeah, you had a retired admiral, I think, here. Oh,
Tim Gallaudet.
yeah, a couple weeks ago. He was talking about that email that got deleted.
Wait a minute.
Kyle says, so we should forget the major case happening right before our eyes? Absolutely not. That's not what I was implying at all. At all. What I was saying is that the more that you see, the more that you learn about these other cases, that the harder that it could be to be objective. And the easier that it is for people that don't want to face the truth and don't want to realize that it was probably a conspiracy will just write it off and write people like you and me off as crazy and just listen to the next guy. You know what I mean? Like, this world is not what we think it is. Well, not what we thought it was, I should say. There is a lot going on. There are a lot of very, very powerful people with agendas that do not have our best interests at heart. And then there are people like me and people like us that are just trying to do our best to figure it out. We're just trying to figure it out. You know, and I saw in the chat, I guess some of you guys weren't here earlier when I was, talking about having Gary on the other day. You know, for me to really be objective and for me to really find the truth and know in my heart that I'm doing the right thing and that I'm, not being disingenuous to you guys is to go through every possibility, every scenario, listen to the voices on every side. I'm not going into these debates or going into these situations assuming that I know everything, assuming that I'm right, or attacking people that I disagree with. And believe me, I do a lot of attacking, and I attacked Gary plenty. But once I had him on, I thought that it was a good opportunity to just hear what he had to say, let him hear what I had to say, let all you guys hear everything. I could have sat there and cut him off. I could have nitpicked and tried to pick apart every argument that he made. And, but like I said, it would have been disingenuous, because he did have a couple good points, like he has been more accurate than a lot of people on the possibility of a 30-06, but he's leaning the other way. His argument is because it's possible that it's probable. And those are two different things. Anyone who's saying that it's totally impossible for a 30-06, it's like, you got to learn the physics. You got to understand that there are other factors. But, just because it's possible, it doesn't mean that it's probable. And it doesn't mean that it happened. And it sure as hell doesn't mean that I believe that. You know what I mean? It's like being honest, being objective, especially in this space when things could be so tribal. It's really tough. It really is.
Different admiral.
He was the oceanography guy.
Tim Gallaudet. You probably saw a clip.
Yeah. We're talking about an email that got deleted about the Tic Tac UFO thing that somehow got leaked. And I've seen so many people come out and say, like, I'm allowed to say this and I'm not allowed to say that. And that's not what a whistleblower does. And I get it that there was a huge example made out of Snowden. But I think that the way if our perception is being managed, then we are in a psyop. Guaranteed we're in a psyop. So all this started with a guy named Edward Bernays.
Oh, he's bringing up Edward Bernays. Oh, this is going to get good. Chat, you guys know who Edward Bernays is? No? He was the one that convinced everybody that breakfast was the most important meal of the day so that he could sell us sausage. He got hired to manipulate America so that they could sell more breakfast meat and orange juice.
Bernays.
I think he was also the nephew of Sigmund Freud, if I'm not mistaken, too.
He was the guy that invented the term PR. And he changed the term from propaganda to public relations. He just changed the word propaganda. He was the guy, he's the reason our butter or margarine got dyed yellow. He's the reason that we think bacon is part of an American breakfast because the pork industry needed to sell more bacon. He's the reason the Department of War was changed to the Department of Defense. He's the reason that women started smoking Virginia Slims back in the 70s. When it was inappropriate for women to smoke. So he organized a parade called Torches of Freedom, where women would go and smoke in the street and just say F you to everybody. And just, he changed the perception as like, this is a symbol of freedom and I'm going to smoke. So he was the biggest propagandist in.
But guys, it's so much worse than that too. You know, like people refer to the food pyramid a lot, saying that they, lied to us about the food pyramid so that we'd eat a bunch of crap so that other people could profit and we could end up putting on weight and getting sick, which is 100% true. But another thing that I've referenced multiple times that I don't know if all you guys are aware, but they lied to us about the map. Like the map that we learn in school is not the real map. You go to school, you open up your social studies textbook and they show you a map where Greenland is this big and like they got America in the center on the left, Europe in the center of the right, America's looking all big, but in reality that's not how the geography looks. If you like look at an accurate version of the map, number one, Greenland is tiny. America is not center and it's a lot smaller and it's on the top left. Europe, again, smaller and it's up high. South America and Africa are massive, massive. They're almost twice the size of how they appear on the maps that we were taught growing up in school. Now, why did they do that? It was part of our indoctrination to make America and Europe look like the center of the world and to be these massive central countries that controlled everything and controlled the board, and to minimize the size of some of these other countries that didn't have the same political influence. YouTube certified commenter, $10. Thank you very much. I can't trust a guy who sits cross-legged like Chase Hughes and seems perfectly comfortable. That goes back to my my back problems, which is why I was also just getting up stretching. When I sit in the chair for too long, I'm in a lot of pain. I'm not going to pull up my shirt now, but I even have a couple lidocaine patches. It's not easy for me sitting in chairs. I sit in so many different ways on this chair. If you pay attention, the way that I move and I pivot, I do it constantly, but that's why. Let's get back to this.
Probably in the last 400 or 500 years, like in the world. So he manipulated a lot of economic stuff. He had a lot to do with the United Fruit Company, which is down in South America, which you may have heard of in Panama. But this guy invented all of these processes to shape perception and change how people behave. And he was actually Sigmund Freud's nephew.
I was right.
And he wrote a lot about this propaganda stuff. And his best-selling book that he wrote about all of this is called Crystallizing Public Opinion. And in this book, he talks about grabbing a hold of somebody's focus,
Good night,
establishing some kind of authority. And I'm using my own words here, but it's the same exact process. So if you think of that FATE model that we talked about, FATE, focus, authority, tribe, and emotion, that's our hardware. There's another set of influencing factors for the human side of the brain, the software part, but that controls our hardware. And with everybody, we have all the same hardware, almost identical hardware. And that's all you need to take control of a human brain. It's like, can I establish the focus? Are they doing that with the UFOs? Did they harness our focus? Are there people of authority coming out? Is there a sense of tribe involved with that? There's UFO communities, there's the subreddits, but if I like a couple of UFO things on the internet, I'm going to get fed like crazy amounts of UFO stuff online. And then there's emotional stuff. And then we have like the emotional anticipation of some of these videos that says, John Smith is going live tonight at 7. He's going to expose everything, new secrets you've never heard before. And of course, nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, if I can harness the power of FATE, then I can control a total society.
What's some of the most successful Psy Ops you've seen conducted that are complete now, that you could maybe dive us in, that we could dive into and you could explain, from start to finish what the end product was?
Our school system was one of the biggest, and how westernized systems of elementary, middle, and high school were organized. When the U.S. was first getting started, this guy, I can't remember his name, but he was in charge of this stuff. So he is going to be the first head of the Department of Education and create this education system that's going to be nationwide. He goes and learns. He flies to Europe and learns from all these people who developed something called the Prussian education system, which in the Department of Education's founding documents, which were some written by this guy, was turn schools into factories that make good workers. I'm paraphrasing that, but the word factories was there. School's just a factory to manufacture people for the workforce and the people that are obedient and all of this. So the Prussian education system was meant so that workers were manufactured and people didn't question the king.
Have you guys ever noticed that hospitals, schools, and jails all seem pretty similar on the inside? Like the walls, the hallways, the desks. Well, maybe not the desks for the schools, but that it's all very systematic. My daughter actually noticed that. She was having anxiety one day last year, and she wanted me to pick her up. And I'm like, what's wrong? Like, what happened? I'm thinking it's like drama with another kid. And she told me, she's like, I feel like I'm in jail. She's like, I every time I go to school, it's like the same thing. It's like a school, as like a jail or a hospital. I thought she was so smart for that. Let's see how we did on this poll. I said, do you think we are currently living through multiple psyops? We had 64 votes. 98% said yes. 2% said no. Well, there's always one, right? We're gonna move on though, on to the next video. And we're gonna get into a little bit of Julian Dory and talk some Epstein stuff. This should be fun. And then we'll wrap it up here. We've already been going for more than an hour and 45 minutes. This has been a nice chill live. I just want to thank you guys again for hanging out with me. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. If you want to support the channel, you can become a member. I do a lot of members only lives. I put a lot of content on the members only channel.
Last week, we just start with the tweet right there, and then I'll get to the story. But like, the reason I want to bring this up is because I think it also shows yet another crazy example of how the government could have reneged on the worst deal ever made because Epstein was violating parts of it. But just the tweet to start, perfect. So the story is Jeffrey Epstein assaulted victims at a fake office during his prison sentence. We have heard about the fact that he's had an office that he would go to, whatever it was, 5-6 times a week in downtown West Palm for 12 hours a day with crazy. A personal driver taking him there before he went back to prison to sleep. But the Telegraph had jail to sleep, not even prison. The Telegraph has obtained and published photographs taken inside Epstein's office for the first time, showing the cushy conditions he was granted while serving an already lenient sentence in a minimum security lockup. So let's hit the article. Sex offender financier assaulted victims at his 14th floor Florida Science Foundation suite during his prison sentence. He always wraps everything up in like this fake love of science. And you know what? He actually might have loved his fucked up science or whatever, but like everything has to come back to like something that makes him seem smarter and dignified as it relates to things that have absolutely nothing to do with what goes on in his brain.
Yeah. He just likes genetics is really what it is. Eugenics.
Yeah.
For being real.
Yeah, if we're being real. So this was at 250 South Australian Avenue in Palm Beach, the Florida Science Foundation. And this is written by Poppy Wood, U.S. correspondent for the Telegraph. She writes, Rosa was 18 when she met Jeffrey Epstein in 2008. The teenager from Uzbekistan had been lured to the U.S. with the premise of a, quote, modeling career beyond my dreams, unquote. By who, Joey Deef?
Jean-Luc Brunel.
Who definitely did off himself. Like, I know that's what the governments told us, in President's Day weekend 2022, that on an early Saturday morning that weekend, he, decided to end his life in his prison cell. He definitely did that. No one did that for him. For sure.
For sure.
Say for sure, Joey Deef.
For sure.
For sure. Anyway, so the French fashion scout and friend of Epstein died in jail in 2022 while awaiting sex trafficking charges. A month, I like how they said died in jail. Good. Shout out to the Telegraph. I see what you did there.
Poppy Wood.
Yeah, one of us.
Is that even a real name?
Oh, don't do that.
I was really trying to hold
Poppy
it in.
Wood.
All right,
Well, at least it's not
could,
popping wood.
yeah,
Anyway,
we could talk.
a month after her first meeting, Rosa, the Uzbekistan girl who was promised a modeling career, found herself in a far less glamorous situation than she imagined. She had been offered a job working for Epstein. Just read this back. She had been offered a job working for Epstein while the pedophile was supposed to be serving an 18-month sentence for a child sex offense. Joe, what do you think a LinkedIn listing like that looks like? Job, secretary, executive, hours, when I'm not in prison.
Yeah,
right?
it's going to be like, well, you're going to be on site. We do have.
Did any of you guys watch the interview that Epstein did with Steve Bannon, where he was talking about his time in jail? And he was actually saying that it really didn't make any difference to him because he'd be doing the same thing regardless whether he was at jail or not. Like just talking to people on the phone and just doing his thing. I was actually watching that interview again the other day. I'll cover that one soon. I don't know if I ever really went deep in depth with that, but it was very telling. He says a lot in there.
Have an office. They're going to be armed guards there.
well, field
No,
trips
just
are going to
kidding.
be behind bars.
No armed guards.
Yes.
There are no guards.
No guards. And if they are, they. Yeah, I won't go there. But either way,
It's a tough one.
yeah, like how much would they need to be paying? Now, this is $2008. So, cut dollar values in half at least.
Mm-hmm.
But like for you to consider taking that job, Joey Deef, let's say you were a woman, because you're not, as far as I know, but how much at not even age 18, at age 23, you're a year out of college, how much do you need to be paid a month to say yes to this?
Do I have any knowledge of this guy?
No,
I'm just a girl who, she finished school.
that's right.
Man, shit.
Shit.
I need at that age, in 2008, I need like 30K.
All right, let's fast
Epstein was
forward a little
allowed out. Yeah, okay. The Florida Science Foundation, a nonprofit company Epstein claimed to a local court he had been working at for, quote, 15 years, unquote. He claimed that to a court through his lawyers in writing.
That's crazy.
Was bogus. His attorney had registered it on his behalf in November 2007, months before his prison sentence started. Now, he had a lot of attorneys. I want to know if that attorney was Alan Dershowitz, though, number one. Number two, that is a direct violation of, to say nothing of all the rules.
I want to pull up this comment real quick because this is a theory that I've shared a couple times. It's from David Todd 96, says at RealBayes, Trump absolutely knew in advance of 2020 election he would not be named president because Sheldon told him, you built the wall, we want mass immigration, sit it out, bring you back, Gaza, Iran. I actually believe this. I don't necessarily believe it for that reason, but I do believe that Trump was aware that that whole election was compromised, we'll say, or potentially compromised. And I don't think he ever thought that he was going to win that election one way or another.
That were already broken here and that should never have been allowed to have happened. But they literally would have, by the implication of this article is that literally through court documents related to a plea agreement and what the stipulations of that would be filed with the courts, agreed to by the prosecutors and the defense and overseen by the judge, there was a direct fraudulent lie that should mean two things. Number one, the entire plea agreement is automatically tossed out by the judge. This should have been caught. It was very easy to be caught. And number two, whoever filed that and actually filled out that application to have it in November 2007, I'm speaking about the attorney here, and then reported it as an organization that he was a part of for 15 years, if not going to a disbarment hearing, that attorney should be put under serious review by the Bar Association of Florida for conduct that is unbecoming of a lawyer. I don't know, pure spec. Maybe my lawyers can help me out. That seems like an ethics violation.
Yeah, because you know who registered that company? First name Juan, last name Carlos. No, I'm just saying, like the state of Florida, I can't imagine registering that thing was a hefty process. I'm sure that they just wrote Juan Carlos as the manager of the company and
Probably.
registered it and got an LLC the next day. I don't know.
Probably.
Pure spec.
But yeah. All right. So
That's crazy.
So Rosa helped man the phones at the fake company's headquarters. Who's calling? In Suite 1404.
You don't
at
know.
250 South Australian Avenue, a glass building flanked by palm trees and a lake. Look, they gave him a lake. Nice view. She said this is, and of course, this is what always happens.
That's wild. If Epstein had a lake window view while he was in jail with a 12-hour a day work release, 6 days a week for his inappropriate behavior, we'll call it, with about 60 women, if I'm not mistaken. But guys, I mean, he was intelligence, remember? Alexander Acosta said it. And he had Alan Dershowitz and Ken Starr for his lawyers. You know, the same Alan Dershowitz and Ken Starr that represented Trump in the early 2020s, along with Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche. So, I mean, of course he got the 12-hour a day work release, 6 days a week with his own office, access to a phone, window lake view. You really can't even make it up. It's disgusting. But that's what it is. That's the perks of working for the deep state and being their guy. You could do whatever the hell you want.
This is what this guy would do. She said that Epstein abused her while she was working at the 14th floor office, according to testimony she provided to Congress in May. Several other women have made similar accusations, saying the office was, for all intents and purposes, quote, a get out of jail free card, unquote.
I had a feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go down a little bit. There might be one more thing I want to say. Telegraph has obtained and published photographs taken inside Epstein's office for the first time, showing the cushy conditions he was granted while serving an already lenient sentence in a minimum security lockup. Pedophile was handed an 18-month sentence in June 2008. He claimed he needed to use his Florida Science Foundation headquarters to negotiate donations for medical research. I don't know, maybe donations for his like master race eugenics bullshit plan at Zorro Ranch.
If I was running that prison, the warden, I'd be like, "Yeah, you want to do your donations? Yeah, here's a roll of quarters. Phone's right over there. Go do your thing, Mr. Epstein."
In fact, little work was actually done at the Florida Science Foundation. The 3,881 square foot workplace was that's a nice fucking workplace. That's a lot nicer of a workplace than I provide us here, Joey Deef. Let me just put it that way, strictly by square footage. The workplace was kitted with a TV, high-tech speakers. Listen, you need good Bose. Mm-hmm. You need good Bose speakers. Gets the people going.
Yep.
High-tech speakers and framed photos, including one of a young girl. Silver-plated tissue boxes sat beside a pair of sofas in the suite, as well as a bronze statue of a woman and a bookcase. The office even had a large kitchen, although Epstein rarely cooked.
Because he only ate blood.
Yeah.
No, it's not in there. It's not in there.
Go down. This just somehow gets worse and worse. He also used it as a place to host Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York. And
Sarah Ferguson, That is Prince Andrew's ex-wife. I believe his ex-wife. Yeah, they got divorced in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. Listen, I mean, what do you expect? The guy worked directly for the Rothschilds. You know, like he was on another level. You think these people are going to the same jail we're going to? You know, like what do you think? It's insane. Yo, Julian Dory is funny though. Let's keep going. I gotta watch more of him. People are always recommending him, but there are just so many creators, and I do so much research. I don't really watch a lot of new people.
Skype Lord Mandelson. Haven't heard anything about that investigation recently, by the way. While he was serving as UK's business secretary, the office provided Epstein with a postal address to enjoy the luxuries of the outside world that a prison sentence should have precluded. So his mail's not getting checked.
Dude,
Gets to get free mail in
it's
and out.
actually hilarious. Like how like this is like shit like out of a movie.
It's
It's insane.
they would write this in a Hollywood script and go, yeah, no, listen, Andrew, I hear you. Andrew, I hear you. You have to scale this back. No one's going to buy.
And then it's Kevin Spacey. He's like, it doesn't matter. We pay them every week.
We pay.
Give them an address. Don't check the mail. And
That's
they're like,
right.
wow, he's
That's
really
right.
plugged in, this guy.
He's plugged.
He's really plugged in.
He's plugged. These included indulgences that Epstein specially requested, such as an iPod. Remember those? A desktop computer shipped from his New York mansion. So that's interesting. He wanted his computer shipped, a desktop shipped from his New York mansion.
Wanted his
I
Dell.
wonder why.
Mm.
I wonder what was on that hard drive.
Luxury.
And luxury leather samples from his island home refurbishment. Epstein's friends also sent gifts that they thought might sweeten the pill of his time behind bars. DVDs of historical thrillers and a copy of Gone Tomorrow, a Jack Reacher novel by Lee Child, published in 2009. Epstein even redirected his subscription to the Nabokovian to the Florida Science Foundation office after he was jailed. The magazine honors Viktor Nabokov, the author of Epstein's favorite book, Lolita, which tells
That's his favorite book. No fucking
but
way.
look at what it is. Which
Yeah, I
tells
know
the
exactly
story
what
of
it
a
is.
I mean, let's not forget he did name his jet the Lolita Express. Is anybody surprised?
middle-aged pedophile's obsession with a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah, dude.
And his plane was called the Lolita Express. Like,
Dude, that's so crazy.
Wasn't it Stanley Kubrick that made the movie Lolita? Same guy who made 2001. Oh man, Kubrick made a lot of classics. Full Metal Jacket, The Shining, although that doesn't really, that's different. That doesn't really fit the same as the other movies I'm referencing. And let's not forget the last movie that he made, Eyes Wide Shut. And there's a lot of controversy surrounding that one as well.
the phrase hiding in plain sight doesn't do justice to what people like this did. And I'm going to talk about this in the America 250 thoughts at the end. But like, it's been a good ride. It's been a great ride, America. We've had a lot of fun. According to these people, it's been a great ride because to them, the ride must be over. And they're just taking the last tickets on King to Cod and enjoy the fucking flow down one more time on that roller coaster and then leave Six Flags forever. Because this is far past the point of middle finger in your face or middle finger to the side while they walk by with a smirk on their face and you're screaming at them and they don't care. This is like whatever's way worse than that. I'm thinking of some worse things. I'm not going to bring that up. But like,
But yeah, we hear about these stories with Jeffrey Epstein. We hear about Psy Ops, what we saw with Chase Hughes and, just how this stuff's been going on for decades to indoctrinate us, to brainwash us, to herd us like sheep. And then you see what happened to Charlie Kirk. And it's like, you wonder why we don't believe the narrative. You wonder why you don't believe that Tyler Robinson took out Charlie Kirk with a 30-06 with no exit wound. Cash Patel and Dan Bongino running the FBI, both have a wife and a girlfriend affiliated with TPUSA. TPUSA, who then does the full 180 and just changes directions on multiple issues and people that meant a lot to Charlie Kirk. But we're conspiracy theorists. We're crazy. We're what do they call us? The candy cult, cantards. And I don't even understand why everyone keeps. I mean, I guess I understand to an extent why everyone puts us under the Candace umbrella. Not that there's anything wrong with Candace. Love Candace. She does great work. But I feel like they do that to try to discredit us because they go out of their way to discredit Candace and to just attack her online. You have all these movements saying different things. Like who on the internet gets more hate from the other side than Candace Owens? You know what I mean? But yeah, it's like if we don't trust the narrative, then we're just crazy. And then when you talk about Epstein, then they sit there and try to tell you, oh, there's no evidence. There's no evidence that anybody got trafficked to anybody or that anybody else at all should have been arrested. Show me the evidence. If it was there, I'm sure Cash Patel and Dan Bongino would have arrested him. Right? It's like it's like a certain level of gaslighting that it just blows my mind. It just blows my mind. Not only is it a slap in the face to me and everybody who's like-minded that actually, takes the time to research these things and tries to have a better idea of what's going on, but it's a slap in the face to their own supporters that believe it and regurgitate the same bullshit. It's like, how stupid, like I don't want to, like I said, tonight's like a chill live. I'm not trying to attack anybody, but in 2026, how ignorant does somebody have to be to believe when they say that Epstein is a Democrat hoax and that he was just doing whatever he was doing with underage girls that weren't even children, that weren't even prepubescent, as Megyn Kelly said, among others? It's like, how ignorant do you have to be to believe that? And all these people that just like off themselves over the last 5 or 6 years. Like, that's normal. I'm sure that there was nothing suspicious with any of those cases.
It's so blatant, and somehow organizations like the Telegraph are able to get more documents and more information, and the evidence, like when you think, okay, this can't be a worse setup. Oh no, it is. It's impossible to be surprised by things anymore, but somehow you still get surprised. So there you go. Jeffrey Epstein's cushy situation was obviously involving more abuse, which I think we probably figured that part, but the amenities he was enjoying was even beyond our wildest dreams. And, this is the same guy that Leon Black's like, well, he was convicted of soliciting a 17-year-old prostitute who didn't show the right ID at the time, so I didn't think much of it. They just thought this was perfectly fine. And I'd love to know, they said in that article, friends were sending him stuff. Can they obtain in the documents? Like they mentioned a couple names that he was Skyping with and things like that. But as far as friends sending him things, I'm asking, what's her name? Poppy Wood?
Poppy Wood.
Yeah, Poppy Wood. If you're doing great work, Poppy. But if you can find in those documents some information as to who specifically was sending him things and what things they were sending, and you can open source that, I speak for all of us out here. I'm pretty confident in saying that we would very much love to see that and expose some more. So we'll keep our eyes on that. But there was also this seat has had some interesting people in it. That's all I'm going to say. But there was another story that Deef and I were looking. I mean, this was right before we got on camera. Like, it was like we literally were about to hit record. And I was like, hey.
And, I'm seeing some of the comments, people referring to Trump and what I said about not believing that he was a PDF. You guys got to understand something. You go to these parties, right? You go to these big parties and there's hundreds of people and there's dozens of rooms and people are inside, outside. Like, I mean, any of you that used to go to parties in high school or college, like, even if you're there and there's 100 people at the party and 20 of them are doing blow or doing some kind of drug. Doesn't mean that everybody's doing it. But you have to assume that everybody knows that it's going on. And as far as my take with Trump, like that is what I was saying, that based on my own research, that, yeah, I believe that he was at a lot of these parties, but I think that it was more casual and that he had he ran in a lot of the same circles. He had a lot of, mutual friends and associates, but I don't think that Trump was a part of that inner circle in the early 2000s and where a lot of the really crappy shit was going on. I don't, because if he was, I don't think they would have had a fallout over a property in Palm Beach. I think that we would see more about him going to a lot more of these meetings with individuals like Jess Staley and Leon Black, and he would have stronger ties with Les Wexner and the Clintons. You know what I mean? That's all I was saying. I don't want anybody to misconstrue it. Like, I think that Donald Trump was totally innocent or oblivious to everything that was going on. I think that a lot of people knew what was going on. I think that a lot of people were at those parties and that were close enough to know what was happening and not speaking up. And that's why we're not getting any of it. That's why there's no arrests, because there's not one person on that list that would get arrested. We're not one person in those files that would get arrested and not be able to throw somebody else under the bus where they should be getting arrested for something too. Maybe not related to children or underage girls, but it would be for something. And that once you knock that first domino down, you're going to have a lot of dominoes going down, and it would turn the entire establishment upside down. And that's why I believe that's why we haven't seen any arrests. I could be wrong, though.
Dave, get a load of this. But that link, Epstein and Barack using Israeli mercenaries in Africa. Africa is just the place that the elites around the world just love to pilfer. They just love to use and abuse the people and their resources and keep them in, a low economic spiral so that they can continue to do it. And I'll just say this on a personal note. I received a text this week. I'm not going to say who this was from. Interesting guy I got connected to a couple years ago who sometimes sends me a text. And usually when he sends me a text, I look up like this and I just look around and then close my phone. But he said, I'm just going to read this before this story because I'll explain why in a minute. But he said, give me a call sometime. You're getting into some deep shit. Keep it going. Not a reassuring text, but anyway, not that one, Deef, the other one, the Epstein and Barack one. That one was funny.
That is the link under the Epstein and Barack one.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to do it live, people.
Is it the justice.gov one?
Nope, I got it right here. It's from the Cradle. It's on June 26th. I'll give you the link, Deef, so that people can also see this on the screen. And you guys can go check out this deeper yourself. It says, leaked emails expose Jeffrey Epstein and Ehud Barak, former prime minister and defense minister and special forces commando and a lot of things of Israel, using Israeli mercenaries to plunder minerals across Africa. Former Israeli minister Ehud Barak coordinated closely with Jeffrey Epstein to secure oil, gas, and mineral resources across Africa following his resignation as defense minister in 2013, according to leaked Gmail files and U.S. Department of Justice documents reviewed by Drop Site News. Epstein helped package privatized Israeli intelligence and surveillance infrastructure for sale to foreign governments. To expand this business footprint, Barak drew on his lifelong intelligence connections, including former Mossad chief Danny Yatom and his private military firm Global Strategic Group. Classified proposals within the leak revealed that Yatom's firm deployed an elite Israeli-trained special operations unit to train Congolese state forces in the mineral-rich eastern regions of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The military intervention helped counter the March 23rd Movement Rebel Alliance during the 2012 to 2013 war. The battlefield stabilization immediately opened direct investment channels for Epstein's network, who leveraged Barak's military credentials to pursue lucrative resource concessions with Congolese leadership and engage in privatized sanctions diplomacy. The resource scramble has intensified. Here's where it ties back to today. And you say, oh, these motherfuckers were early. The resource scramble has intensified in 2026 as tech titans seek Congo's coltan and lithium deposits to fuel the artificial intelligence boom. In response, Kinshasa has partnered with the U.S. and UAE to launch a $100 million mining paramilitary force to counter Chinese dominance. Again, it's a big proxy war also over there, west and east, going on in China. I remember back in 2023, episode 148, Sean Ryan and I talked about this a bunch. I made a little documentary on it, 12 and a half minute documentary at the time about some of that. And basically people get caught in the middle of it. But make no mistake about it, it's a resource and money proxy war. Here's the last paragraph, though, and this is where it got interesting. Despite Washington's denials of funding the mine security force, they've never worked with Israeli interests before, ever, at any point, Joey Deep, so they would never fund anything there. Private contractors like Blackwater founder Eric Prince's Vectus Global have arrived alongside Israeli advisors to train Congolese battalions, continuing a decades-long pattern of foreign exploitation.
Classic.
Well, Eric was sitting in this seat for episode 305, hasn't been back since then. Would be an interesting conversation to be had. I will say he's been speaking out a lot against the Iran war, which very much surprised me. This is kind of interesting, though. I would love some deets on that. So
Yeah.
maybe we reach out and see if Eric will talk about that. But I think about this a lot because some of the people I've talked to in the past, including that guy mentioned on the text, and shall remain nameless, the fucking, I won't even call it military training, but what's the term I'm looking for? I'm going to invent a term. I guess like the sub-tribal kill force training that goes on, with Western and highly trained Eastern military intelligence getting involved to go into countries like Congo. I don't want to get some other ones wrong, but a handful of countries you would recognize in Africa, and basically come in at the behest of someone who's vouching or fighting for political power to have their forces trained to be able to go take out the other factions also vying for power. And usually it's not two, it's multiple in these countries, in return for the people training them using the countries that they're connected to come in and get the business on the back end, which usually ends up undercutting economically the very people of that country that are supposedly the new regime is trying to represent, and also creating, human rights issues all over the place. We talked about that before with the cobalt mines and everything. It's like, this is a moral disaster. And
and I talked about this, something similar last week or the week before, regarding a lot of the NGOs in places like Romania. You see, it was Bill Clinton with his Bucharest deal in like 97, 98 that made it so NGOs were able to go to Romania and set up shop. Now, it made a lot of sense for America to be able to set up in Romania just because of its location on the map. It's like dead center between everything. You got Russia, you got China, you got Ukraine. It's like everything's all right there. And then right away, you see all the NGOs that pop up, and you got people like Greg Laurie and, which we know his ties now to different allegations and things going on with children, and also to Erica Kirk and Lori Franzfeld. But that's another story. I'm not even trying to put the emphasis on that. But bottom line, if you look into a lot of these different NGOs, a lot of them were set up for anti-trafficking. Like they were nonprofit organizations that were there, that they said to help children, and they had ties to Epstein. And I've done a lot of research on how I believed women were trafficked and transported from different parts of Europe to America. And it just sucks. It's just really sad when you see how much tax dollars get spent, and we're to believe that we're going around to other parts of the world to help the poor, to help orphans. And the reality is, it's a lot of times just the exact opposite.
yeah, I understand the world's a fucking complicated place, but like it feels like, especially in Africa, this has been going on since the dawn of time at this point. And it, like, at some point someone's got to say, hey, maybe maybe there's a more humane way to do your business, or maybe you just skip some fucking business for once. Not to be like a fucking
Damn hippie.
yeah, exactly. I'm not trying to be a hippie. I'm trying to be a fucking human,
dude. I'm with you. Gotta get that profit in them numbers, dude.
And as a little side note, it's like we talked with Doug Rushkoff yesterday. That podcast isn't going to be out for like 4 or 5 weeks or so because it's not time sensitive. And I've been filming a lot of great podcasts, and we got to get some other ones out. But Doug was a really interesting conversation. He's a guy I spoke about maybe like 8 weeks ago, where we played a clip of Doug in 2020 discussing his time advising billionaires. And this interview was before COVID. It was like February 2020. And he was discussing his time advising some billionaires a few years before that.
2018, he said.
2017 or 2018. Privately advising some powerful billionaires on how to plan for an end of the world or civilizational threat event. And it was something that they literally
call it the event.
The event.
Yeah.
So when he went to, you'll get all the details in our conversation, but when he went to talk to these guys, it wasn't like they were wondering or speculating that something could happen. They literally had a name for what would happen. They called it the event. They said it could be anything from nuclear disaster to artificial intelligence having a serious issue to a pandemic to something with the fucking climate. They had all these different possibilities, but like it's totally happening. So we're building bunkers. They had notes and shit. Mm-hmm. They wanted to know exactly how to plan for the end of the world because Doug Rushkoff is like he's been a long time tech futurist philosopher, very well respected, got a lot of predictions right back in the 90s. So that's why he's being called into a meeting like this. And, he was blown away by like their lack of humanity. And the craziest part was I did it again, but I'm sitting there and I'm trying to, there's a lot of billionaires these days, but I'm trying to plug like who they could have been. And I can't, I'll never be able to say, it's off record, but
I'm noticing in the comments, a couple people putting a lot of emphasis on what I was saying about Trump. I don't know what you guys think, like how you guys are taking it. Like, all I'm saying is if you look at Trump from the early 2000s up until the time that he ran for president, the guy was a reality TV star. He was on TV. He was in New York. He was a reality TV star. You weren't hearing all these different reports and allegations that we started hearing after he ran for president. He was a billionaire. He brushed shoulders with a lot of people, but he wasn't in the intelligence game. He wasn't involved in geopolitics. He was one of the people who called in on 9/11 saying that I don't know how this could have happened. Those are steel buildings. I know how this works. Like, whoa, like, what, do they have something in those planes? This couldn't have happened. I'm not saying that he was a complete outsider or that he didn't know about what was going on, but I'm saying that like when I do my investigations and I do my research into who was where, who was connected to who, in what way, who was compromised in what way, who was connected with different NGOs and everything, I'm saying that he was not in that inner circle like, let's say, the Clintons were. He wasn't. Like, I don't think you're going to see anything of Trump in Anthony Weiner's laptop. Like, I don't know why this is like so hard. Like, why you guys think that I'm shilling for Trump. Again, I'm just being objective. Is there more out there that would change my mind? I don't know. And would I be in some kind of denial if I saw some new evidence, or if somebody sent something to me, or if something else came out where I'm like, I don't believe this? Like, absolutely not. Like, you guys got to give me a break. Like, sometimes it's a little much. I'm not going to lie. It's insane.
I had this one guy in my head, and it's not Peter Thiel or Elon Musk or something like that. It's a more nondescript guy, but I had.
Yes, he was with the mob. One thing one data point that definitely stands out, which is undeniable, is his relationship with Roy Cohn. Like I'm well aware of that. I'm well aware of that. And obviously his connections with the Rothschilds, because in 1990, when he went bankrupt and he needed $2 billion, it was Wilbur Ross working for the Rothschilds who helped facilitate those loans for him. Like, I know, you know what I mean? Like, I know, but that doesn't mean everything else is what I'm saying. Like, I haven't seen as much in certain areas that I have with other people. If there was a list of like, I can name 15 names off the top of my head that if I was gonna like rank them on who I think may have been involved in some sort of trafficking or something illicit with underage girls, that there are a lot of names that I would put my money on before Trump. That's all I was saying. I don't know why that's such a big deal. And you know what? Not for nothing, but there are a lot of people that believe that Trump is trying to make changes from the inside. I'm more of the mind state that he's a Trojan horse than a savior. Like, let's not get that confused. But at the same time, does part of me want to believe that Trump is really trying to fight the deep state from inside, and there's some sort of internal battle, and that he's trying to come out of this to make changes for the better? Why wouldn't I want to believe that? Like, why would I want to assume the worst? Why do any of you guys want to assume the worst? Like, listen, we're in dark times. Like, we know that things are really, really screwed up. And we know that Trump is not a good guy. He has betrayed us in many ways. But just because I believe he's guilty of A, B, C, and D does not mean I'm just going to go right to E, F, G without the right amount of evidence.
This guy in my head. I'm like, why do I think this was the fucking guy leading the meeting? Like the dude calling it. And so I didn't have paper in front of me, but I was like, Dave, can you stick the camera on Doug real quick?
Mm-hmm.
He stuck the camera on Doug, and I had my band
band.
over there, my elastic band. I had the pens and Peter Thiel, but that's what you get.
Yeah, because we
know?
give him all the money.
We give him all the
You
money.
got to stop investing in all these crazy artists on drugs.
But here's the thing, Dave. Here's the thing. Peter Thiel has an idea that's going to help us with transparency now. It's going to help us better understand the world and be able to get to the truth. And it's called objection. You heard about objection, Dave?
Yeah, this is his new project. Yeah.
Steve's on it. So objection, and I'm going to read just the definition here.
It's
So
just from Google.
This is straight from Google.
I'll put it up
All
there
right.
for the people to see.
Objection is a fact-checking media or investigation platform co-funded by tech billionaire Peter Thiel. For a fee starting at a measly $2,000. I don't know. $2,000 is a lot of fucking money to me, Beef. Doesn't seem very measly. Like they write, measly is a word I put in there, but they write it like, it just starts at $2,000. For a fee starting at $2,000, anyone can pay to have a journalist story investigated by former intelligence operatives who are just always straight shooters and judged by, quote, and I shit you not, this is what it says, an AI tribunal consisting of major language models.
Nice.
The primary objections, criticisms, and concerns surrounding the platform. Oh, I don't know. Chilling free press. Media lawyers and press freedom advocates argue the platform serves as an intimidation tactic. So hold on. A platform run by one of the billionaires who runs the world and controls basically like a lot of the intelligence apparatus that's being input into all these fucking powerful governments around the world could somehow be against free press and be an intimidator. That would never happen.
Yeah,
right?
because they run good biz.
And they're great biz, and they're all about freedom. So it says, by allowing the wealthy to initiate rapid pseudo-legal investigations, it can harass reporters and discourage them from tackling tough investigative pieces. One thing I don't want to get lost in this, by the way, like don't mishear me. I'm not sitting here arguing that like the free press has been a modicum of truth and transparency at all, especially in recent history. I mean, I could go all the way back many decades in the history here, but yes, we have watched the press fail. We have watched the press be bought off. We have watched the press fall under the thumb of intelligence officials and deep state kind of things. Like, let's not get that lost here. This is a prime example of where the pendulum swung into such a bad place that the equal but opposite reaction is now powerful fucking intelligence billionaires saying, don't worry, I know the pain of this too. Remember what Gawker did to him and how he sued him and basically ended Gawker because they outed him and stuff like that. I know the pain of this too. I'll come in and take care of it. And he's going to take care of it by committing, the same types of sins from the direct other side. It's like communism and fascism. I'm not saying that as a parallel here. I'm saying like as an opposite kind of thing. Like they both have the same end result. It's just a different way to get to the solutions. Another concern is the weaponized fact checking. Critics view the platform as pay to play, which they're right about. Because by the way, these investigations start at 2,000. But if you really want it, the way I think you'll see it in an article in a minute. Actually, I have it right there. Objection assigns a human investigator at the $2,000 price tier, a college graduate. That's all you get for $2,000. So you're basically, you're getting some guy that can show he got a bachelor's degree. That's it. But you're paying $2,000 for him to look into it. At $10,000, now it's really up there. You get a former CIA or FBI agent who definitely is unbiased and has absolutely no ties to anything that could be bad or have a different motivation behind it. And of course, Peter Thiel and Palantir have no ties to either of these organizations, right? So the CIA or FBI agent could gather evidence, which is displayed as exhibits, yada, yada, yada. And I'm going to get into that story that this one author did a really he did a really cool example of like where it can go. But anyway, weaponized fact checking. So critics view the platform as pay to play, like I said. Then they also have a concern about hostility to anonymous sources. The platform automatically devalues anonymous sources because credible investigative journalism often relies on whistleblowers who need anonymity for protection. The standard threatens to penalize highly accurate, essential reporting. And here's one where I'm going to see both ends of the spectrum and agree it's both bad here. Anonymous sources have both been the greatest thing to ever happen to journalism and the absolute worst thing to ever happen to journalism, because editorial teams can decide to lie about things and hide behind anonymous sources behind the scenes to get a greater narrative out, maybe at the behest of their bosses, the people they really work for. Or anonymous sources have been something where if the person ever actually came out, they'd be killed and their whole bloodline would be killed. But because they can do it anonymously and behind the scenes, they can actually break a serious big story. So you get the best and worst of the worlds there. And this right here could just eliminate the whole thing altogether. Do with that what you will. There's also unproven AI reliability, relying on an AI tribunal, which just the words AI tribunal.
That's good.
Like I know Peter Thiel's, his brain works a little differently and stuff, but like just write that, not that he gives a fuck, but write that on a whiteboard. Write it out 10 times and then just sit back and stare at it. AI tribunal, and ask yourself if that sounds dystopian or not. And count to 5 before you give a real answer.
Welcome, David. Stick
I mean,
around.
what are we even doing here? Critics point out that large language models are known to, quote, hallucinate and lack the human judgment, contextual awareness, and editorial oversight necessary to properly vet investigative journalism. There's also a conflict of interest, which of course is the whole thing. The platform's creators, Peter Thiel and Aaron D'Souza, who previously orchestrated the Hulk Hogan lawsuit that bankrupted Gawker, which is what I referred to, where Peter Thiel funded that, have a long-standing animosity towards traditional media and a personal stake in protecting wealthy figures from press scrutiny. So can you pull up where it says Sackler investigation? So this is from the Hollywood Reporter. I want to get this journalist.
Oh, we're getting into the Sacklers? That should be good. I hope you guys are all familiar with the Sacklers. We were talking about opioids before. They were the ones who made all the money off of Oxy.
Name. I don't think I was familiar with them.
It's not Peggy Wood. Oh.
Okay. Wasn't it Poppy Wood? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry,
Either way.
Poppy Wood.
So Gary Baum, a Peter Thiel-backed tribunal, is putting journalists on trial. Its first target. The billionaire has reteamed with the legal strategists who helped bring down Gawker to start an AI-powered appeals court for the rich and aggrieved. For many journalists, blowback is just a part of business. The irate call to the editor or publisher, often expressed through the promise of litigation, the online pylon, often expressed through personal invective, occasionally the threat of violence, often expressed through all caps derangement. It's rare to encounter a novel variant, but on April 2nd, I received a remarkable email. Quote, someone has filed an objection, Your Honor, objection against something you wrote, explained Austin Livingston, pointing me to a webpage where Purdue Pharma heir Michael Sackler, you read that correctly, one of the fucking Sacklers from the opioid crisis, a film financier, which I'm sure he is a film genius and there's no nepotism there whatsoever, and self-styled ethical investor. Does he really call himself? Again, I feel like we have to have an optics, class every week. Optics, Michael. The word ethical just.
Well, he's involved in a cool new startup. That's ethical.
Even if it's your family and it wasn't you, if I gave you that benefit of the doubt, and I'm probably not going to do that, but if I did, maybe just keep that word away.
Bayes was just given another inside scoop, but he does not care about the truth. I actually gave Bayes a super chat that the shirt was gone and dropped the source and the timestamp, but he refused to read it. I have never refused to read a super chat. If you were on my stream the other day with Gary, you might not have realized that I wasn't in control of the supers. He was hosting the stream. I don't know what you're referring to. I mean, everybody has my email. I promote it all the time. RealBayesTeam@gmail.com. Feel free to send me any scoops. Obviously, I care about the truth. I pull up your comments all the time. I feel like this one's a little bit disingenuous, buddy.
Food for thought. Anyway, so self-styled ethical investor had paid a new startup, fittingly called Objection, which again, this kid's got, he's worth
ethical.
Billions of dollars.
That's ethical.
So he can afford to do investigations like this left and right. You and me can't fucking pay to do this. You and me out there can't fucking pay to do this all the time. To access the legitimacy of a skeptical article I published about him and his business in the Hollywood Reporter 5 years earlier. So he's trying to fix his SEO. Let's go down. This is just like, oof. Livingston, a young staffer who describes his job on LinkedIn as simply creating shareholder value, noted that an AI tribunal would attempt to, quote, adjudicate a determination of truth, unquote. An AI tribunal would attempt to adjudicate a determination of truth. George Orwell couldn't have written that bar if he had every fucking great songwriter in there with him while he was writing these books.
That's so funny.
And the announced outcome, quote, will also affect your honor index score, a measure of the veracity of your published work. He went on adding, quote, you can argue your side by uploading your evidence and suggesting your interpretation of the allegation, which will automatically get denied by the AI on the other side via an auto reply email, because that's how they always work on all these platforms. I perused the webpage, the author says, designated Sackler v. Baum 2026. So they even put it like a court case. It featured a countdown clock ticking towards an apparent verdict. Then I read up on the company, which is backed by the prominent right-wing billionaire Peter Thiel, who waged a legal war against Gawker Media after a published coverage about its business interests and personal life, which upset him. The effort led to the outlet's demise. At first glance, Objection seemed to be a kangaroo court catering to rich and infamous plaintiffs, the latest service in the lucrative sector of digital reputation management. So I, the author, replied to Livingston explaining I'd consulted with my editors and the Hollywood Reporter believes the article stands on its own. However, I was interested in writing about Objection. 2 weeks later, I found myself in a revealing and at times baffling exchange with the Oxford-educated brain trust behind the firm about the nature of truth, trust, transparency, and power. Objection's founder and CEO is Aaron D'Souza. Now, side note, I was told about this guy years ago. I did not know who he was.
I think it's safe to say that nobody is completely safe in America, regardless. if they have a reason for you to not be safe, you're not safe.
And this is so I'll even say specifically when this was. I was told about this guy in detail by someone who knew him. in early 2021. And this was during a time where I didn't know much about like all the shit Peter Thiel was doing. I knew about Peter Thiel, the businessman and investor, and I was like really into how VCs worked and all that. So it was like Peter Thiel was a legend. I mean, you know, he was like, oh my God, this guy's like incredible what he's able to pull off. So obviously changed that opinion once I was presented with better evidence. That said, he is a
No, I haven't seen Mercy, but I've seen it get referenced a lot with Minority Report. So I kind of, you know, had some idea about it, but I will definitely check that one out. Is Mercy the new one? Is that a new movie or an old one? Is that the one that came out with recently with Chris Pratt? Let me know in the chat. Oh. Mandates are the mind war, people. Very worrisome, especially religion and military. Yeah, I am a firm believer of separation in church and state. I think that it's very, very shameful for the government to use religion in any way to manipulate people.
very smart guy. You have to know your enemy. I'll never take that away from him. He's a very, very smart guy.
All right, I'll check it out.
This dude never sat right with me when he was explaining to me his style, how he did things. It's strictly a vibe check. I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, I could have at the time, based on what I was told, point to this evidence and that evidence to say this thing and that thing, therefore makes him a bad person or a guy that's very suspicious. It was just like, he sounded like a zealot, like someone who had a preconceived idea of what he wanted a final result to be and said, I don't give a fuck who has to die for me to get there. That's how he came across to me. And now he's being written about here. So Aaron D'Souza, an Australian entrepreneur and provocateur, best known as the mastermind behind Thiel's litigation strategy against Gawker, which involved a patient, extensive search for the ideal proxy plaintiff to sink the online news outlet. The campaign, quietly funded by the tech investor, culminated in Hulk Hogan's successful invasion of privacy suit, RIP Hulk, and ultimately helped force Gawker into bankruptcy. Thiel's involvement with D'Souza as the intermediary to Hogan attorney Charles Harder was exposed after the verdict. Let's keep going right here. More recently, Thiel has backed D'Souza's company Enhanced Games, dubbed the Steroid Olympics, so he's the guy running that, which offers athletes financial incentives to compete under rules that allow performance-enhancing drugs. The company, which also counts Donald Trump Jr. as a key investor, they're all always tied, went public in early May. To discuss objection, D'Souza and I convened for a video call along with the company's chief technology officer, Kyle Grant Talbot. They played rugby together at Oxford. D'Souza, in his signature quarter zip of the startup tribesman, exuded the confidence and finesse of someone long adept at raising money. Grant Talbot, an Englishman whose CV includes engineering stints at NASA and SpaceX, struck me as a more grounded counterpart. D'Souza, who's long had the notion of raiding news outlets, started objection after an extended discussion about the concept with the prominent Silicon Valley investor entrepreneur Balaji Srivastava. I never remember how to pronounce his name. He now has stakes in both objection and the Enhanced Games. The Gawker litigation taught me the courts are too slow and they're too expensive, said D'Souza. It's the most like, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with him, by the way.
Welcome to reality.
I completely agree with him, but it's just like the most casual way these VC guys put it. Yeah, we got to optimize the efficiency, of the course. We're just going to buy it. So in 2016, after we won the Gawker verdict and Gawker went bankrupt, I considered the idea of buying Gawker and turning it into a news rating website. A decade later, he explains, we're the first people to sell adjudication, very legal term, by the way, as a service. Comparing his venture to well-respected legal bodies like JAMS, SEAC, and the International Chamber of Commerce, which specializes in alternative dispute resolution outside traditional judicial systems. They're private arbitration courts that are very trusted methods of truth-seeking. Of course, these are consensual private forums. Everything's consensual. Objection issues public verdicts based on investigations paid for by one party, which may be negatively impacted by the refusal of the other side to participate in this process. Let's keep going. D'Souza grew up in Melbourne, the youngest of three brothers and son of a research scientist. His PhD is in intellectual property law. Now splitting his time between London and New York, he's the type of inveterate founder who's constantly ginning up business plans. They can be boring, like a tech infrastructure firm. Neat.
And I just want to point something out real quick. Just for people that are paying attention. I know we got two things going on. We're listening to Julian Dory, and I'm also pulling up comments in the chat. But like this guy, he referenced 3 times saying that he sent a super chat and I didn't read it. How many of your comment, like these aren't even supers. I'm pulling up all your comments. Whatever you said in that super, why don't you just say it right now and I'll pull it up? I don't know what the hell you're talking about. It's like you're coming at me because I said I don't think that Trump may, I think people are reaching or making too many assumptions when they talk about Trump being a PDF. And all of a sudden, it's like I'm a Fed. It's like I'm sorry. I just need a little more evidence for that particular crime. There's a whole lot of other crimes and a whole lot of other shit that I cover on a weekly basis. I'm saying that particular one. But whatever. I digress. It's just crazy. Like, and this is what I mean. Sometimes people see, he is lying. Dude, write the comment right now. I'll pull it up. I don't know what you're talking about. This is insane. Guys, is it me? Is it me? Like, what do you want me to do? He's like, he's not pulling up my, me with my, how many people we got watching? I want to withhold your key detail to 250 people. Like, what do you want? Drugs? It's insane. Awakening member for 4 months. Prayers for your daughter. Thank you very much. Thank you for what you do. Your guests have been thought-provoking, and I appreciate the conversations. Bayes is based. Yeah, no, he is trolling. It's okay, though.
A chief of staff association, or whimsical. A notion to fund an Australian poet laureate. His ideas have been nurtured within a close and influential cohort. There's this group of us, 15 to 20 of us, that are gay entrepreneurs, and we've all holidayed together for years, D'Souza told the Sydney Morning Herald in February. It's an extraordinary tight community that has propelled me and all of us together to the heights of capitalism. To him, it's unsurprising that these paradigm-shifting overachievers are all gay, citing the landmark 1973 book, The Best Little Boy in the World, about how the pursuit of ambition and excellence can help closeted young men deflect from their sexuality. D'Souza has observed that his friends are, quote, the best little boys in the world. They all went to the fanciest universities and won all the prizes, unquote. I'm sorry, that's just weird. That has some Lolita book sitting in Epstein's office vibes to it. I don't know. Like, that's why. What does that have to do with anything? Like, oh, so we're gay and therefore we're smart and we should just stick together and we're most adept to run. Like, what? Who's ever said that? What does your sexual orientation have to do with whether or not you're great at running a fucking? That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. It's also evolutionarily makes no sense, by the way. But like, what a fucking weirdo. We are run by fucking weirdos.
Literally.
So yeah, these guys are starting a company that is pay to play for the wealthy, like the Sacklers. To think of how many investigations simultaneously Michael Sackler could fund to fix his SEO. It's pay to play to fix SEO and your reputation online. So, $10,000 for a CIA guy, inside jobber. I'll take 100.
Yeah.
Fix every one of these. Give it.
I agree, Monica. By the way, if you protect PDFs and you have the power to seek accountability, you're just as guilty as one. Yeah, that's why I stopped supporting Trump, a year ago. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it is my fault. Maybe I got to get better at like articulating my thoughts into words so that people understand. Like maybe I'm not like always delivering the message properly. I don't know.
Give it to the AI tribunal. I already know the result. By the way, if it costs me another 10 to make sure I get the result I need after the right prompts, do that. Right in your face. They're doing Zoom calls, bragging to reporters about it in mainstream publications. And it's going to happen, just like Palantir happened. It just happened. See, ain't Qtel invested in it in 03? Oh, then the same guy was like the earliest fucking board member at Facebook? Oh, and he's funding Donald Trump into office? Oh, then he puts JD Vance on the ticket and moves to fucking Argentina afterwards?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's building bunkers in fucking New Zealand and Argentina.
And guess what? He's gay.
Yeah, he's part of the crew. Part of the little boys club or whatever. Also a very creepy
best
fucking
little
way
boys
to
in
put
the world.
Creepy way to put it, by the way. That I'm remembering that right. The best little boy in the world.
Best little boy. in
Yeah,
the
that's
world,
I don't even need to read that book to not be creeped out by that. It's so obvious. And again, I am all for fixing the journalistic system. I am all for trying to take it apart piece by piece and getting back to the brass tacks of what it was supposed to be. Reporting on truth, regardless of where the reporting leads you to said truth or what that truth is. That's what it's supposed to be. Just the facts. And Peter Thiel is right. We've gotten away from that. But Peter Thiel doesn't care about facts. Pure spec here. Guys like this don't care about facts, though, in my opinion. He cares about using the Trojan horse of the people that he doesn't like, failing to report the facts, by then saying, here's the Trojan horse of what the facts actually are. But inside is all the people who are going to go report the things that meet his narratives that also, maybe in another direction, are not facts at all. Now, I sit here, this episode's coming out on July 4th, 2026. 250 years ago, a bunch of dudes got in a beer hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's obviously a crass way of putting it, but it was actually on July 2nd where they voted to agree upon the Declaration of Independence itself. I believe the vote was 12-0 and one colony, New York, abstained. But July 4th is always listed as the date of the official Declaration of Independence because that is, I believe, when it was released to the public, and the good people of Philadelphia and other colonies could read about it and read what Thomas Jefferson had written, which to this day is quite a brilliant document with a lot of brilliant thoughts in there that certainly set the pathway for a lot of the great freedoms that, in spite of people like Peter Thiel and guys like that who are threatening it right now, that we do still enjoy today, and has created an experiment. That document ended up creating an experiment of a country that is still an experiment, but has seen a lot of good come out of that and is at a critical moment right now to determine the chart forward to be able to determine whether or not, good will win out and whether or not something like this experiment can actually succeed instead of fail. We've never seen, as far as I know, in the context of world history, this much of, quote, a multicultural environment forming over so many years and morphing and changing and having this melting pot effect to the degree that we've seen with America. And I think that's the most beautiful part about what we have. We can have important arguments about, how the border may be having problems and if it needs to be more secure and stuff like that, and fixing the immigration system and everything. But I do love the fact that we're made up of so many different ideas that have been exported to come together and try to form the best ideas in this country. But as Bruce Lee said, and I've often quoted on this show, you got to take the good things and discard the bad. And right now it feels like we're taking a lot of bad things sometimes from where we've gotten as a culture at this point, and we're discarding some of the good things. And I think that also starts with documents like the Declaration of Independence and like the Constitution. Declaration written 250 years ago, Constitution, I guess, like 237 years ago, 238 years ago, whatever it is, where these founding fathers, who were still flawed men living in flawed times with, certainly enormous moral mistakes, obviously including slavery and their failure to abolish that at the time, and some of them also taking part in it, to be clear. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. The brilliance of the things that they were able to write out, starting with the First Amendment itself, and obviously what was the Constitution, guaranteeing the right to free speech and the ability for all of us, whether it's sitting in a seat like this or standing out in the middle of the square out there or sitting in the U.S. Congress, addressing the people that are duly elected to supposedly represent us, the ability to be able to do that without the fear of being arrested or having your views canceled is a critical tenet of this country. And it's something that we have seen under attack in multiple different directions, specifically over the last decade and a half. And I think there have been some decent improvements in the way of the free speech issue over the last couple of years, with some more leeway, if you will, online. But I think the fact that I even have to use a term leeway underscores the fact that we have a real problem here, and that we have created a society that has separated class structure in such a way that the founding fathers warned about it descending into tyranny. Now,
That was a really good live. Good video. He said that it was pre-recorded. It wasn't live. Yeah, I could see why everybody was telling me that I should watch Julian Dory. I was hearing that for a couple months. That was actually the first time that I really sat down and watched some of his stuff. But that was good. I enjoyed it. And I like the way that he does research. I like the fact that he's willing to cover Epstein. That's always a plus in my book. And I love that he identifies a lot of these problems that we're seeing in our country, and that he's just trying to raise awareness. He's got a pretty big platform. I don't know if you saw before. I gave him the sub. I really never watched him before. I just heard his name in passing a bunch of times. I think I saw him clips of him interviewing Ian Carroll once, and I didn't realize it was him. I was watching for Ian. If he's the same guy, I'm thinking if it's the same video. But yeah, and he's got a big channel too, 1.3 million followers. God bless. I hope he keeps doing what he's doing. That was really good. So I just saw something on X that I want to pull up now. Because we were covering some clips with the Charlie Kirk assassination before. Check this out. This is from Alley Top Files. Hold on, let me blow this up. And again, I keep saying it. I've been saying it this entire time. For me to accept whatever they try to say happened with Charlie Kirk that day, every single anomaly has to be explained. You know, they need an explanation for every single anomaly. And one of the big anomalies and things that stood out that hasn't been talked about enough was when Hunter Kozak, the person that was asking the question when Charlie Kirk was allegedly shot, like, looked like he was rehearsing. It looked like he was rehearsing, that he did the whole, he was caught on camera giving the same expression that he gave after Charlie was allegedly shot. But now watch this. This is really interesting. They're showing, I think this is, okay, here we go. So it's saying that he was making that face because Hunter Kozak blew their cover. So there's Hunter. He's giving somebody the thumbs up. Charlie's, you know what? Is it me or does it look like Charlie looks annoyed? This other guy is it. Hold on. Maybe this shit was staged. Watch. So this guy over here, you see my mouse? He's asking the questions. Charlie Kirk is looking at him. But then watch what this guy does. That's Hunter Kozak. He's the one that goes up next and is asking the questions when Charlie's allegedly shot. Now look, there he is. He's sticking his thumb out and he gets Charlie's attention. Charlie's looking at him. And look at his face. I mean, I know there's a lot of compression here, but look at his face. He's looking at him. He's like, what the hell are you doing? I mean, it doesn't necessarily, you know, it can mean anything. It could just be that he's taking attention away from the person that has the microphone. But there's Terrell Farnsworth there looking down at his looking down at his phone. And let's see how this plays out. Wait, who's he giving the thumbs up to? That's Mikey McCoy behind Terrell Farnsworth. Who does it look like he's giving the thumbs up to? Who's like, that is the trajectory. Terrell's there. He's not looking. Charlie's looking at Hunter. And it looks like he's giving a thumbs up to either Mikey McCoy or somebody near Mikey McCoy. Chad, am I just seeing things? Am I just looking for things? Let me know what you guys think. And now look, now Terrell's noticing. Terrell's noticing. Charlie's attention is back on the person that's asking the questions now. Now Hunter's he kind of looks like he's turning his head in shame. What is this? What is this? He's kind of like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And now Charlie's doing something. I don't know if he's yawning, if he's picking his nose, if he's scratching his face, if it's a gesture. Mikey's still over there just looking down on his phone. Oh, wait, we gotta get that face. Yo, he's a funky looking dude. He's a funky looking dude. Yo, I'm telling you, this whole scene, this whole scene is just so weird. Everything that happened that day is just so weird. All right, they're implying that he's looking away at Terrell. And now Terrell, it says he's shaking his head in disbelief. I don't really. Oh, he does. He does. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. What do we have here? Somebody got to call Dee Dee. I think Dee Dee's got to make another podcast. I don't know. Oh, now it's saying that Terrell needs to tell somebody. What does he need to tell somebody? Who is that? Who is this next to Mikey? Proceeds to bitch about it. I mean, again, this is all subjective. I just found this clip here. I was going on X before I was going to wrap up the live. Oh, he's going. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on. Hold on. He does look back. Mikey McCoy tells Terrell to shut up about it. Oh, did you see that? Did you see that? His hand goes up in front of his face. Is he doing the shh? Is that what he did? Yo, are we on to something, folks? Are we on to something? Are we gonna see what's his face over here talk about how I just got this sent to me by my handlers to throw you all off? Let's have him ask her a question, though. He was banned from all TPUSA events, and Frank Turek invites him to UVU for his later speech, and also Hunter hang out after the UVU event with the man who raised his... Don't know what you're talking about, but I'm still reading your comments, buddy. I feel so bad that I allegedly missed your super that one time that makes you think that I'm some sort of fed or an op. Don't worry, I'm not going to time you out of the chat. I'm not going to silence you. I'm not going to ban you. I'll put the spotlight right on you so that everybody has the peace of mind and knows just how transparent I really am. All right, but back to the show, because, yo, this is some shit. This is definitely a couple factors in the equation. This with what we were covering before with the Dan Flood, that being the FZOs. Did Charlie stage this to quit from the neocons? Yo, is this motherfucker still alive? Yo, Special Agent Bays is on the case. Special Agent Bays is on the case. I might have to make up with Kelly Raybon. I might have to get back to work with her. I don't know. There's definitely some shady business going on here. You know what? Allie Top Files was the shush. Allie Top Files was the one that posted this. Maybe I should have her on and see what she thinks. What do you guys think? Yo, Chris, Allie, are you guys watching right now? I know you guys watch my stuff. I'm gonna send some links. Now I'm curious. I was getting ready to sign off, but we might just be getting started. I don't think I'm ready to go to bed. Because if this bullshit was staged, what am I going to cover the trial for? Everyone else is going to be covering that shit tomorrow. I'm still going to be covering it at night. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm talking to a couple of people that are going to be there. They're already booked. So, like I say, I'm going to be objective. I'm going to give you guys the best of both worlds. We're going to get to the bottom of this one way or another. Hold on. Let me go to the chat. Yo, is Jay Yap still up? Maybe I'll send him a link too. I've been talking to him about doing a collab. Guys, don't mind me. Give me 1 sec. Let's see. Let's see. I'm not going to message Blake. He's not going to like this. Blake gets really, really angry when people start entertaining the Charlie staged it theory. Yo, it looks like he's doing this, like he's doing the shush. Yo. What do you guys think? I think it's time for another poll. Let's see. I'm going to add the famous cop-out not sure answer. Because I'm not sure myself. I've been leaning more towards dead for the last couple of weeks. There was a time where I thought for sure he was alive. And now I'm not too sure. I'm telling you, there's just too many things that need to be explained for. And after talking to Gary, he seems like a nice enough guy that loves America. I don't think that Gary would cover up for Charlie's assassination. But if it was a military operation to stage it for whatever reason, I definitely think he would cover that shit up if given the chance. If he got the call. Maybe I'll send Gary a link. Guys, what do you think? Should we have RealBayes Paramount Tactical Part 2? He'll take my call. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading this all wrong. Maybe that's why they hired Andrew Wilson, the ultimate debater. I don't know. No, Gary. We're not going to call Gary. If he calls me, if he's watching right now, he calls me, I'll definitely take the call. Hold on. We got to watch this again, though, because that shit is just weird. It's just weird. Hold on. I wish I had one of these that didn't have, because it's a little biased that it has the text and all that. Like, if we could just see the footage without, like, the subjective text, I think that would be much better. No. I'm not bringing Karak on. I don't know the guy. He's saying crazy things. He might say something that might get my stream cut. He could email me. I'll be happy to talk to him on the Discord and have a conversation. But I can't just bring randos up to the stage. That's a risk for the channel. I've done that before. Look, he's looking away. Yo, this is weird. Yo, the Mikey McCoy doing this, if that's what he's doing. I mean, we can't see exactly what he's doing. I don't think that he's imitating, like giving a signal, like pretending to give a BJ or something, Look, Terrell's talking. What's Mikey going to do? And Terrell's looking in that direction, too. Yo, Hunter Kozak is blowing up the whole operation. Look, boom. Hold on. How do I slow this shit down? We're gonna go to 25% speed. Look at him. Look at Mikey's hand. What do you think he's doing over there? I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I've said this entire time. Hold on. I think my mic just got lower for some reason. Let me check it. Yes, it did. And I don't know why it does that sometimes. But I've said this entire time that there is no way that they could have kept sending Charlie Kirk out there between the files and the inevitable war with Iran. He was already getting smoked in debates for sticking up for Israel. Like they couldn't send him back out there. He wouldn't have been effective. He had to stop doing the tour one way or another. And now I'm just starting to think maybe he quit. I don't know. Very weird. Very weird indeed. What did David say? It says check what David said. RealBayes, can we play till they work on Charlie under the table? I'm sure his arm pops out. He is alive. I'm not gonna pull that up because it's bloody. I've talked about this many times. His arm does get raised, but it could be because they were pulling him up. What I saw in that video, which I actually think I was one of the first people to point this out, actually. I'm not like sitting here trying to like toot my own horn or pat myself on the back. But while everybody was just focused on the fact that his arm raised, I was the one pointing out that not only does his arm raise, but his wrist bends up like this and his fingers extend. Now, I can't pull that video up on YouTube, but it is somewhere on my X. I've posted it. I've made a video about it. I've commentated on it on X, how his wrist bends up and his fingers extend. Now, I did research into this, and it does say that when people lose a lot of blood, like enough where they're going to die, that their nerves start spazzing and they could do weird things. So I wouldn't put all my money on that, which is why, even despite that, after a while, I thought maybe he is dead. But the whole Hunter Kozak thing, it's like, And then I think was it Didi that made a video that found out that Hunter Kozak has a parent that works for Jimmy Kimmel? If I'm not mistaken. Let me see if I can find that video real quick. Hold on. Let's see. Well, in that video that I played earlier where they're carrying him to the car, there is no blood dripping. That was one of the things that I found weird, and people were making excuses for that. Nope, not this one. Where is it? It gave me the wrong link. Let me see. Listen, I know some people think that he was gonna fake it and then he died. Listen, if he was gonna fake it, it was faked. I don't buy that theory that, oh, they were gonna stage it and something went wrong. No, no, no. If it was staged, it was staged. like that's where like the confusion and all the manipulation and conspiracy stuff starts to set in. You have to realize that if it was gonna be staged, then it was staged. There are enough anomalies there. Hold on. Maybe let me just go right to YouTube. If anyone else has the link for the video that I'm thinking of, please let me know. Or let me know what the video is called. Damn. I don't know where the video was. Oh, you know what? This is a little, you know what? Why don't we just find Hunter Kozak doing an interview? We could definitely find one of those. He had to interview with somebody. Yo, this guy is weird. This is him. Is he the one that blew the whole operation?
Ways that the Trump administration and conservative pundits are defending murder. Donald Trump says, based on the attached clip, it is hard to believe he is alive, but is now recovering in the hospital. Yes, this man, shown 30 seconds after murdering her, is barely alive. God bless. If only there was a physician to help the ICE agent out.
Oh, no.
Said something like, we need to account for gang violence. And I think I was like, I was in the middle of saying, great, did you run a statistical analysis on that? Right? Like essentially saying you have the burden of proof. And I think I was in the middle of saying that when he got shot. I went down pretty immediately, and everyone near me, everyone in the rest of my line, who I've been talking to for the last like few hours, dropped down with me.
You catch that? You catch what he just said? He said the rest of my line. Why would he say the rest of my line? Why wouldn't he just say the middle of my sentence? I was in the middle of my sentence. I was saying what I was going to say. Why would he refer to it as a line?
I remember I have a brother who was in a school shooting, and I was talking about the distinction between these, that like for me.
Let's look at all of the ways that the Trump administration
Probably shouldn't be playing all that. Let me just look up Hunter Kozak, Jimmy Kimmel. Oh, he was speaking out on the news.
Major break in the case of Charlie Kirk's assassination. The suspected gunman accused of shooting and killing him while he spoke to a crowd at Utah University is now in custody. But it wasn't law enforcement who captured the suspect. 22-year-old Tyler Robinson turned himself in with help from his family.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him.
After a 33-hour manhunt, Tyler Robinson is in custody, suspected of assassinating Charlie Kirk on the Utah Valley University campus. The 22-year-old allegedly surrendered with the help of his family in Washington County, Utah, some 250 miles south of the shooting site. Investigators believe he acted alone and, according to family, had become more political in recent years.
The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th. And in that conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate.
Investigators say they also interviewed Robinson's roommate, who shared some disturbing messages linking
It's life for me.
case, trying to.
They had this claim, this nation.
How many very open about having some sort of dialogue or some sort of conversation that he believes in engaging, and I'm pretty on the record of how much I disagree with him, but I do definitely respect how much he's willing to platform voices to ensure that at least some semblance of a good conversation can come out of it.
That video already racking up 800,000 views in just a few hours. Kozak is urging civil discourse over violence. Tonight, many asking, will
If you freeze frame when Tyler jumps down from the roof, looked at the flagpole in foreground, its shadow leans way right. It can't be noon when the footage is filmed. I've been on the record multiple times saying that I wouldn't be surprised if that whole scene was filmed on a different day. Like not filmed then and there. I like literally a different day, like the day before, 2 days before. That whole footage was weird to me. I was never convinced. Oh, here he's back. Hey, Bays, dare you to play 15 seconds of my last video today. No blood, no gore, no swear words. Then stop and see if your audience wants to hear more or if it's a joke. You will not have heard this. What video? What video? Message me on X. I don't know what you're talking about. Tag me on X, message me on X. If there's no blood or gore, I'll play that shit right now. Actually, is this you that sent me something 2 minutes ago? Is that the one? Just let me know if that's you. Wait, is this? If this is you that was playing, I'll play this. I'll play this shit all day. Is this you? Yo, this guy's crazy. Oh, he thinks I'm a fed. What the hell's wrong with people? Yeah, I've played this multiple times. All three of these motherfuckers look like they were smiling. It's buffering. They're on to me. Come on, play. All right, here we go. Oh, there's so much compression, though. You can't really tell. But yeah, I don't care what anybody says. I've said it from the first time I saw it. I've said it a million times since, and I will stand by it. Rick Cutler was smiling. He was not grimacing. Right there. Look at him. He's cheesing it up. Cheesing it up. It worked. It worked. They all bought it. Don't worry. Stay down. No, it's fucked up. See, I hate saying stuff like that because if I'm wrong, then I just feel like a piece of shit. But sometimes I see certain videos and I'm like, no. I'm like, there's just no way. There's just no. Well, yeah, well, come on. He's not smiling. Who says? Listen. Why is this so shitty? Karak, was this the clip you were talking about? Was this you that tagged me? Look at him. And then they do the whole fake handoff thing, which was really weird. Awakening. Have a good night. The whole. I don't know. I'm going to fry my brain if I keep watching all this stuff, though. You guys, too. Make sure you watch something funny after this. Think happy thoughts. Oh, look, it freezes on him. Yeah, look at that. Come on. Come on. Say cheese. All three of them. All three of them kind of look like they got a little smirk. Look at Dan. Come on. And what was he doing with those meta glasses? What was he doing with those meta glasses when he's like, I don't know. I don't know. All right, guys. Well, nobody answered me. We'll have to leave it on a cliffhanger tonight. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. I should, as long as there's nothing else crazy going on with my family, I should be streaming every day this week. that is the plan. And we have a lot of collaborations. We're going to have multiple collaborations with multiple people that are going to be on the scene at court all week. So that should be good. I also might be doing some collabs, hopping on with some of the bigger names that are covering the court case. I might pop in on certain lives. I also am going to have Elizabeth Lane at some point this week, and Jay Yap. Me and him have been reaching out to each other back and forth a little bit. He seems like a really good dude. I enjoy his show. He's got a really good vibe. Definitely someone I want to chat with and hang out with. So yeah, you're going to be seeing a lot of me this week, knock on wood. But again, I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I always say, be kind, be grateful, do something nice for somebody, and I will see you guys later. And don't worry, Special Agent Bayes is on it. Oh, man.